Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Zamora two-player podcast. I am your player one, Garrett Zamora, and I am joined again by my brother, still in New Zealand, my two-player, Matt Zamora.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, on the North Island this time, so working my way back.
And he's getting hit with some pretty heavy winds, so we're gonna try to get through this podcast without any power outages or window shaking or whatever, and we'll try to get through it for a couple hours at least.
Big kind of cyclone coming through, but we're in New Plymouth, so hopefully away from kind of some of the more crazy stuff. But anyway, we got Wi-Fi, we got power, we're good. So
Okay.
glad to get back on the pod. So cool.
Awesome. So from last episode of me and you talking, we were talking about kind of video game music more in general. And for anyone that missed it last week, I actually was able to interview one of my longtime favorite video game music cover artists, Tara C. Music. That episode is up now. So if anyone hasn't seen it yet, by all means check that out and show her support on YouTube and Spotify. There's literally no reason why she should have agreed to interview our tiny little podcast, but she graced us with her presence, and she was absolutely a blast to talk to. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked that out, for sure go take a look at that.
And definitely check it out. Kind of, I watched it over the last little bit. So kind of thank you for subbing in on our cool side quest there. So kind of Garrett went deep into a side quest deep dive while I was doing main quest stuff. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for to Tara C for coming in. That was awesome. So really cool for you to be part of our pod. So awesome and great work, Garrett. Interview skills. 100%. So you leveled up. There. That was great.
That was tons of fun. I love doing it. So kind of continuing our musical discussion theme, we mentioned this last week where we're going to talk a little more specifically Final Fantasy music, because that is obviously like where, the love of our like video game music really kind of, began. And we just have a lot we could talk about. This was like the easiest episode breakdown I've ever written, because it was like Final Fantasy music. 10 minutes later, I had like 5 pages. Like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure we could fill an episode with this.
And we were dangerously close to going into these deep dives.
I know. I know.
Like, it was just like, okay, are we doing this, or are we just doing a quick chat? Let's get back to other things. Otherwise, Final Fantasy will take over the whole thing.
One of my good friends was laughing at. She was listening to the last episode of me and you, and she was like, okay, we're not going to talk about Final Fantasy music. 5 seconds later, so this one Final Fantasy song, though. It's like, yeah, I know, I can't help it.
You can't have none.
Yeah.
So, little teasers for the main event. So, anyways,
exactly.
That Final Fantasy music warrants its own full-length podcast. So, anyway, yeah.
So, one thing we talked about, last time was like how we had picked up the FF6 and FF7 soundtracks, just because, those were the ones we were obsessed with most at the time, and were somehow available to import from Japan. Another thing that we both have done in, the last, 10 years or however long it's been, is both Matt and I have separately gone to Distant Worlds concerts. I went to one, I don't remember what year that was, the first one I went to. I feel like it was like 2012 or maybe
Montreal, maybe? Or
it was it was in Montreal. Both the ones I went to were in Montreal. And I went to one, I think Mom just took me because she had a deal with her work where we could get standby flights like dirt cheap. And she worked for like a hotel chain, so we were able to, our rate to stay in Montreal in a hotel was dirt cheap. So it was like a pretty cheap weekend to be able to go. And if anyone doesn't know, like Montreal to New Brunswick, it's like probably like a 2 or 3 hour flight. Like it's not super far, but it's flying's expensive. So
and certainly if through through mom's connections to stay at a Fairmont downtown on a staff rate kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
turns out to be a pretty swish way to go see a Final Fantasy concert. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so, as we've alluded before, we would drag her in to listen to Final Fantasy music anyway, so you might as well come to a concert for it.
That's funny.
You'll at least be
Instead of
familiar
dragging
with some of this.
Instead of dragging her from the kitchen into the living room, you're dragging her to a whole other province. Little bit more of an ask there, but thankfully mom was on board, and it's good, nice music. She was happy with that.
Yeah, yeah. And then the following year, my cousin and I, he was in North Bay, Ontario,
Alberta? Oh, okay.
because he drove to meet me there. He drove there, and I flew there to Montreal, and then me and him went that second year. And my first year there, we were up in the balcony because we kind of got seats or tickets like sort of late. Like it was just very last minute where we decided, I think I asked for it as like a birthday present or something like that. And so we just got whatever seats we could, right? Because we were kind of late. But then the next year, we kind of knew it was coming and planned ahead a little bit. And so my cousin Mike and I were like probably like fifth or sixth row back on the floor. And when we sat down,
Oh wow.
there was like a reserved, or I don't even think it said reserved. I think they were just empty and maybe blocked off two seats right in front of us. And then we noticed like lights went down and the show started. And at one point the lights came up when they usually do like one or two songs and then kind of talk about what this concert is and introduce whoever's there. And it was for that one, it was the composer for FF11, Naoshi Mitsuda. He was sitting right in front of us. He was like in that seat
Oh,
in the
no
row
way.
in front of us. And I did play a lot of Final Fantasy 11, so that was really cool just to, to see him that close or whatever. And so that was the second year, but the first year we were there, we were up in the balcony, and Nobu Uematsu himself was there, and I got to wave at him from a balcony at one point when he was doing the VIP autographs or whatever. That's the closest. That's the closest I've got to him.
Hey, whatever. That's video game music royalty right there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So those were the two I had gone to, and then the one thing that was neat about the first year, the one when Uematsu was there, was they did the full-on opera scene from FF6, like actually with operatic singers there.
That's awesome.
And it was really funny because if you've never been to a Distant Worlds concert, they'll usually show footage from the game wherein this song is, taking place. And so, of course, they were showing the opera scene on the big projector, and there's that part where like the what do you call it? Not the prologue, but I don't know musical terms, but it's like the intro or whatever. Yeah. It shows the little like 16-bit composer just like 2 frames like up here and down here, and everyone just started laughing because it's like happening right while the actual conductor is doing his thing.
It's essentially a meme too of that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And then they did. They did the next year because they didn't have a full choir there. So they did the opera scene with just the operatic singers for their parts, which actually makes sense because there's not a lot of like chorus work in that song anyway. And then the second year I was there, they did have a full orchestra or a full choir along with the orchestra, and then they did like One Winged Angel. They did Dancing Mad from FF6.
Yeah,
and that is like
awesome.
And it's like a 13-minute song. It's so crazy. And just to hear that played out was just like unbelievable. Those were like my two highlights from those two shows.
It'd be pretty funny if they kind of did the full opera scene on the screen. Like whenever the dancing part, it's just like the sprites are just kind of, I feel like that.
Yeah. No, I'm certain that played out while that part of the song was going. Yeah.
And like it's funny, only that audience would like super appreciate it. Anyone who was any sort of outsider would just like, what the crap is this? But it's like, oh
That
yes, it was
sprite
like
miming.
appreciating it. Anyway, yeah, that's awesome. That's super
Yeah.
awesome.
Which
Um,
ones did you go to, like a normal Distant Worlds, or I know you went to the Seven remake concert, but I don't remember if you went to a
yeah, I went
Distant
to
Worlds proper.
one. I don't know if it was Distant Worlds. Maybe it was, or maybe it was just kind of some Distant Worlds light
Sure, yeah.
in Edmonton. They had like a concert there when I was in grad school, and similar thing, like Uematsu wasn't there or anything like that. But it
He's a busy
was,
guy.
yeah, exactly. But they kind of employed the services of like the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra or something like that, and um, had the screen with some stuff, ranging from 4 to 12 or something like that. Final Fantasy's 4 to 12, kind of all over the place or
Mhm.
whatever. But it was really, really awesome. And it was kind of like, um, just few kind of different things, catching a few of your favorites, grab a program, nothing too fancy, but was really awesome,
Mhm.
nonetheless. But the one that was really, really good was, yeah, the Final Fantasy VII remake one in Toronto.
And that was like
Um,
last year. That was like
it-
recent.
Less than a year ago. Yeah, I
I
feel
think it
it
was
was this
20.
summer, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it was
Maybe
within a year.
Yeah, exactly. And I know kind of like it was something you and I were supposed to go to, and then just the world kind of got all weird, and when no traveling became difficult, so I went there with one of my good buddies, Cam, instead, and that was kind of next level.
So that was
Uh,
all seven remake songs. There was
yes,
no. It
yeah,
was just seven remake.
just remake. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. They may have like in the encore teased something else maybe, but I
Sure.
think it was just Seven remake with real, really awesome kind of scenes on the back. And I guess like so Arnie Roth was there, and I think Uematsu was at that as well,
Okay.
which was cool. And my friend Cam is a gamer, but no Final Fantasy, kind of new peripheral knowledge of Seven in general, is like kind of steampunky, whatever, and that's about as much as he knew.
Sure. Well, that's pretty close. That's a good.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
good
like
start.
you got 50% of it figured out.
Yeah.
And but he also is like a professional trombone player, and like so
Ah.
I knew he would really, really like it. Just studied music theory for his bachelor's. And the first kind of, whether it was the first track or kind of while we were sitting down, was someone, on the harp performing
The
the Final
prelude.
Fantasy track, the prelude.
Ah.
Yeah. And I remember we kind of sat down and then did that, nothing else, just spotlight on the harpist. Um, and he was just like a super genuine, oh fuck. Like he was just like, oh man. And I was like, oh man, like this is really gonna like blow your mind if this is what. And it was like one of his favorite parts of the whole show was just like full on harp. Anyway, it was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then One Wing Angel, and like the remake
The remake
version of
version.
it,
Oh God.
um, build and build and build, and they had a choir and a tenor or whatever, and he was just like, this rocks. Like, he was just like, I was like, I know. So it was really cool that, if it couldn't be me and you, it was a good second place of someone who really appreciates music,
Yeah. And
itself.
and
So it
and
was
that's
cool.
that's a really cool thing when you can like, because like I had this discussion. I talk to my boss all the time about all this random stuff sometimes. Because this is why I need the podcast, is because otherwise I'm going to talk to someone at work about it that doesn't know or care about what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about. So it just
exactly.
comes out.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to explain to her. She's like, "Why do you listen to video game music?" I was like, "Oh, like I don't even have the time to explain how." It is like so much more than what I know you are thinking it is. And I think
Yeah.
I showed her a picture of the Distant Worlds, like like a not arena, like amphitheater or whatever,
Yep. Yep.
like that I was at. I took a picture of it,
Hmm.
and I like played her like 30 seconds of like a song from, I don't remember which one I showed her, but from a Distant Worlds so it was a full orchestra. And she's like,
Yeah,
this is just a whole other world I never knew existed. And I was like, I know. So when you can
yeah,
like
yeah,
get someone that's not necessarily into the games to just like understand that, oh, this is like what the music in these games is like it's like it's so much more than what you're thinking someone who doesn't really like follow the stuff
yeah.
assumes video game music is, right?
Exactly.
So that's a
And I
good
guess
feeling. If it couldn't be me, I'm glad you got someone like converted to FF music at least, right?
yeah, I know it. I should have. I'll look into this. Maybe we can tease it some other time. But I'll ask him if he remembers certain things just from a music theory
Sure.
perspective. Yeah, because I do remember. So they did the new track made specifically for a remake,
Hollow.
Hollow,
Yep.
and they had someone performing it, the vocals,
Hmm.
kind of one rather than a choir, like a solo artist kind of thing.
It's like the
And
version that plays like in the end credits where it's a solo,
yeah,
like a single person singing.
a- and there are a couple of notes that are pretty high and require like volume and kind of skill to get
Sure.
that note kind of thing. Like you got to hit it and you got to hit it hard.
Right.
And there were a couple of times where Cam was just like he could kind of see it coming.
Sure. Yeah.
And then like when it hit, he was like kind of hear him talking to himself a little bit, and it was just like, oh man, he hit it. Just like knowing it was coming.
Sure.
Um, or like there were a couple times where it's like, oh, he didn't. He got there, but it was like he kind of just squeak up to it a little bit kind of
Sure.
thing. Cam could kind of
That's
notice these
crazy.
things. And he at the end he was like, "Oh man, that whatever sharp that he hit, like man, that's hard because da, da, da." And then they were, and I was like, "Okay, man, slow down. I gotta, I gotta write some of
Well,
this down."
it and it's the it's the ear of someone who is that musical because this actually came up in the briefly in the interview with Tara last week where there's
Mhm.
something in Chrono Trigger. It's the forest theme
Yeah,
that's like the
yeah, yeah,
Mitsuda lick, and it's just like these
yep.
like this very quick sequence of notes, and like I heard her explain, and so I would send her like I'd hear a
Is
song in
this
like
it?
octave. Is
Is
this
this
one? Is
it?
it? And she's like, no, no, almost. I'm like, man, I just can't hear it. Like, what are you hearing that I'm not hearing? But they just have an ear for that stuff so much more clearly than someone like you or I would have.
One thing that was really cool too was I only kind of realized this on the way to that concert. Was it's like, oh, okay, my buddy Cam's come with me, and he, brass instruments, da 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 da, and I just finished another playthrough of Remake, kind of going through them, and I think I probably listened to the soundtrack on the
Yep,
the train ride to
fully
Toronto.
consume it from every angle. I get it.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh wait, Cam, this features like FF7 has a lot of brass,
Yeah.
especially kind of thinking of One Wing Angel and things like
Yep.
that. And I was like, you might actually really be into this. And like there might even be some trombone kind of stuff and whatnot. So
Right.
he loved it,
Ah,
and it
that's
was kind
so
of cool.
cool.
Because I was like, you need like after like let's do a deep dive into. Anyway, I totally forgot all of it, but I'll bug him about some of that because I think there might be some cool music tidbits that are an even deeper dive than you and I would do
Yeah.
peripherally. So
Just from
yeah,
like a
yeah,
musical theory standpoint. Like I could
yeah,
tell you, oh, that's a callback to the theme from that other Final Fantasy or whatever, but I can't tell you
yeah.
all the music theory that goes behind it.
But anyways, yeah, the remake concert was so awesome.
Mm.
And anyway, and then several encores and like
Oh,
anyway, just
just
awesome. I love
kids
the
on
set.
Christmas in that audience.
Yeah, yep, yep, totally.
So go okay. So we talked about how FF6 was like our first introduction to the series and how the music from that really resonated with us. Um, One thing I remember is like not understanding game development at that age because we were like 10 or something. And like not understanding that how like throughout the life of a console, like the games would just start looking better because the
Mhm.
developers just understood how to get more juice out of the hardware that is not changing over the years, right?
Yep.
And so, loved FF6 when we played the crap out of that and played it again and again and again. And so I was like, oh, I just want more. of Final Fantasy. Like, I just give
Yeah.
me more to consume. And
Yeah.
excuse me. And so I remember, I think I borrowed Final Fantasy IV from a friend of mine who had it. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, there's another one on Super NES? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember being, because I didn't understand that game development standpoint and how it
Yeah.
progressively gets better. I remember being like initially a little disappointed with how it looked, just
Hmm.
because 6 looked incredible for an SNES game. Like, that was like the SNES performing at like maximum capacity, right?
And I
Um,
think of it as like if FF4 sprites had 30 pixels, I feel like uh, I feel like the FF6 ones had, I don't know if it was more pixels or at least more,
so
um, instead of this pixel and that pixel being the same color, they did different colors for shading, or whatever. Yeah, it was just,
So a part of that is if you look at FF4 original, when you're on the world map or like, not in battle, they are
yeah,
smaller sprites, and then when you get in battle, they're larger. So they are
yeah,
actually a little
okay.
more expressive.
That's true. That's true. Yep,
And
yep.
FF6 is just always the same
Same one.
sprite.
Yep, yep.
So in cutscenes and stuff, they could, and I mean, they just got better at learning how to make them look different emotion, like they're doing different emotions and stuff. Like, they just got better at that part of it, but they also had
As
more to work
a
with.
as a 10-second sidebar, it's funny because even the FF6 sprites, even though they didn't get the bigger, more expressive ones, you could like the smiles or like embarrassments or whatever. Like, man, they did so good at that kind
Yeah,
of stuff with the limited resources they had.
and that
Anyway,
and that's
sidebar.
just like FF4 was technically the first SNES Final Fantasy,
Hmm.
so it's like they're just still learning how to even do all that
Yeah,
stuff,
I
right?
guess.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
so, and that's just a thing I didn't understand when I was, 10 or 11 years old whenever we played it.
yeah, yeah.
But the thing that did not disappoint at all,
Mm.
FF4's soundtrack is like still one of my favorites.
Oh yeah,
It
definitely.
has, uh, so I remember reading that. So it's called the theme of love, and it's like the music that usually plays between like Cecil and Rosa.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that was like in Japanese music class for like I don't remember what like grade equivalent it would have been, but it was like
Hmm.
equivalent to like third or fourth grade,
Yeah,
Japanese elementary school or whatever. It was like a
yeah.
song that was in their curriculum
No way.
to learn
Wow,
that. Yeah, this was
that's
like, I mean, I
hilarious.
don't know how many years ago this was, but
Yeah, yeah.
probably back around. Well, no, it was like maybe like even as recent as like 10 years ago or something. I remember reading that was still a thing.
That's cool.
Um, and then like the FF4 boss theme. The so
Oh,
the
that one's a banger. That one's like that
if
one's
you
awesome.
listen to the bass line of that song, it is
Mm.
insane. That
Hmm.
like obviously they're doing it on an SNES, but if you hear that performed with like
Hmm.
real instruments,
Yeah,
like with a multitude of covers of that theme, like the bassist goes insane on that song, and
yeah.
it's just God, it's such a good boss theme. Um,
Is that the one that they use for QLEX in um or do they use
yeah, yes,
the regular
I
battles? Yeah,
believe. I think it was. We talked about
in
that
Mario
before.
RPG. Yeah,
Yeah, it definitely was. Because I remember asking my friend who lent me the game, "Is there a
yeah,
boss named Culex in this game? I can't find him." Because I knew
yeah,
about the one
yeah,
in Mario RPG or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um,
and then one thing, there's like the Battle of the Four Fiends when you fight
oh yeah,
uh,
that's and also just incredible. Yeah.
with a multitude of covers as well. And the
Hmm.
cool thing about that theme is, so I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14,
Hmm.
and the current expansion that is out is like all Final Fantasy 4 to the point that you go to the moon at some point.
Yeah.
And it's like like all of the like class gear when you hit max level is like every character from FF4's outfit essentially.
Oh wow,
Um,
nice.
and if actually I'll put a picture up of so I play a dragoon because literally since FF4 I've loved dragoons in every Final
Yeah.
Fantasy. So naturally I play a dragoon in that game, and like the gear you get when you hit max level in this expansion is like identical to what Kane looked like especially in the DS like 3D remake
Yeah.
of 4.
Yeah.
So I'll throw that picture up just to
I
show
mean, it
the.
just, how do you argue with that armor? I mean, like
It's so cool.
if you go like not thinking about their moves or characteristics or whatever, just like who looks the coolest, like, oh, well,
It's
Dragoon,
Kane,
100%.
yeah.
No question.
Yeah. And the
Yeah,
cool thing is like so because this expansion like there's so many tracks from FF4 in this expansion alone, but
that's cool.
you get there's like 4 boss fights in the game where you're fighting those 4 elemental fiends or whatever.
Mm.
Like we've gotten to the point in the patches now that we've fought all 4 of them in 14.
Oh,
And
wow.
uh, so the first one shows up, Scargamleone, I think is his name. He shows up in a dungeon, so you get like the FF4 boss theme when you fight him.
Yeah.
And then the
And kind of
next,
a newer orchestrated version of it kind of
yes,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
okay.
It's a new
Yeah,
version
nice.
of it. And then you fight Barbaricia next, and it's just a solo boss fight, and you get a new version of the Battle of the Four Fiends theme, which is
Oh,
just
even newer than like it's not just a repeat of the previous
well, sorry,
or
the Scargamleone fight is like the FF4 boss theme, the normal one.
oh, okay, sorry.
And
Sorry.
then the other one, Barbaricha, is Battle of the Four Fiends theme, which is like a new version
Okay.
of that, which is insanely good. And
Yeah.
then this patch, you fight, oh my god, Cognazo, I think his name is, the water one. And he's at
Yep.
the end of a
Yep.
dungeon, so you get the FF4 boss theme again, the
Okay.
same remix version. And then fight
Yep.
Rubicante, and it was like, I would have been perfectly happy with that version you just did of Four Fiends
Yeah.
last patch, but they're like, no, here's a new one. I was like,
Oh.
what? Like, it's just like it was like a personal love letter to me because that is like my
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite Final Fantasy boss themes ever. And Soken, the composer of 14, is like, yeah, here's another one for you. I was like, oh, what? I get two. I'll
Amazing.
send you those after. They're
Oh,
such good
please do.
versions. Yeah,
I love the music from 4, even though like, our indoctrination was with 6, kind of
yeah.
going back to 4 is a big part
And it's still
of
Uematsu, right?
expanding. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like
Of expanding our
it's
love
of the
for it. Yeah.
same quality in writing. It just maybe
Yep.
sounds better in 6 because the technology got better, but the
Yep.
melodies are still there even in 4.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so,
Um,
so good.
is Soken the one behind? I remember you showed me. I think it's 14, where there's like a near
Yeah,
automata, like that kind of
yeah,
what
that
do you want to call it? Like
crossover boss
mashup?
theme. Yeah. Or
Yeah, yeah,
mashup's better term. Yeah.
yeah.
I
That
know. I'm
was
sure it
awesome.
was like a collaboration between him and the composer from Nier, but
Sure.
he's
Yeah.
like responsible for ultimately getting it made. I assume.
Yeah,
And it
because
was
that was really cool. There were clear near elements and clear. Oh, I mean, they do the kind of the prelude in it
yeah.
at
Just
some
here's
point.
a yeah. Here's the random FF prelude in the middle of your epic boss theme, and of course it just works.
Yep, just
Um,
like yep. It's like one of those. Yep, they did it. They figured out a way to turn that into a boss thing.
yeah.
That was really cool. I loved when you sent me that. That was neat.
Yeah.
Then that was right when I was in like
I was gonna say,
to be like near Automata mode. So yeah.
yeah, you were just like fresh off your playthrough of that, I think, for the first
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll get to FF7 in a sec because I have a lot more to say. So we'll do the other one, another one I want to talk about first, and we'll go back to 7.
Sure.
So I don't. You've played 9, right? I don't know if you've played it
Oh
all the
yeah.
way through. You have. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
That's a blind spot I have because I don't. We didn't own it on PS1, so I just
And
didn't
I
know
think
when
like
you got around to playing it.
I essentially like graduated high school in the FF8 realm, and so it was
Right.
like I was going to university, and so that's where there's some blind spots where it wasn't like you and me in the basement playing
Right.
games. We'd kind of started, lives as adults kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Okay.
um,
But you have played all the
but
way through it.
I'd say I have played it all the way through. I have not played it all the way through 50 times, like like 7 or 6 or
Sure. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're at least tangentially familiar with it.
Exactly. I played it through a couple of times. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's one song in that game. It's called "You're Not Alone," and it's one of those games. And some Final Fantasy a lot of Final Fantasy games, I guess, have this, where it's just this song that plays once, and it's like if you remember, I don't know how
Mhm.
long it's been, but it's like
Uh,
near the. Go ahead if you think you remember where it is.
I was just gonna say, all the games kind of have like an overture or whatever that like has elements of it in like
Sure.
all like the main theme that kind of so I know there's that, but I don't know if that's where you're going with your comment. So go ahead.
Well, they just it's more of there's like a specific track that plays like only one time in its entirety. And like I think of like Eyes on Me from FF8. Like the melodies of Eyes on Me
Exactly,
are
exactly.
are
Yeah.
there, but you know that entire song only plays the one time. And this is one that's the same. It's like near the end when like Zidane is at like his lowest point, and then like all this, you know, in the most anime way, all his friends come to like, you know, cheer him up or whatever, and the power of friendship.
Rally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But man, if I hear that song, I still get like gut punched emotionally, like because it's such like
Oh
a
man.
profound moment in the, and it just again, it's just how the music adds so much. And I was talking to someone at work and was like trying to explain why it matters so much, and I was like, go and watch like The Matrix, the first one,
Hmm.
on mute, and tell me if you think
Hmm.
it's a good movie. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it
No,
would
no,
look
totally.
pretty dumb if you can't hear the music that adds to the atmosphere of that movie or whatever, right? And
Yep.
it's like it's very much the same for a game. If a game just has bad music or no music, it's just like so much of that emotional impact is lessened for me, at
Yep.
least from like a storytelling standpoint. Um,
E- Exactly. And like, movies have soundtracks and it's not just like, oh, such and such actual, band track. It's like there's ambiance, and all
right.
these things that kind of add to the game. And so there's that throughout all these games, which are, and the fact that you have this gut punch from the music alone, like let alone the whole story of what's going on, like it's such a
Yeah.
huge part of it.
Yeah, and it's like you that song plays once and it's in that scene in that game. It never plays again. Again, the melody of it you probably hear in other things, but just that track in its entirety is that one time. And then they do
Um,
like weird ass songs like the Black Mage Village, which is this weird like synthy, and it's just like, yeah, this makes sense to me for these weird black mages that just became like self-aware, and you know, it's just like that
yep.
soundtrack just goes in such weird places, but it's like it just adds to what it's, you know, the environment it's being used, you know,
I
the
remember like
storytelling of it.
because to me, before FF9, um, black mages to me are kind of like secretive and like dark and brooding.
Sure.
And then when I get to like the Black Mage Village, and
And
its
they're
music is
even
like
like that
so,
in the beginning of FF9. They're all like
yeah,
soulless, like, you know,
yep,
just war machines.
exactly. And then when you get to that village and it's just like some weird synthy whatever, and I was like, this is the complete opposite of what I thought this should be. Because I was expecting like, oh man, this is gonna be like so dark and it's just like clickety clonk, whatever.
Yeah.
But when
Then
you
as
play
soon
the
as
game
you,
and
yeah,
realize what's going on, yeah,
as soon as
exactly,
you start
exactly.
talking to them and like realize that they're all essentially like newborns, like they don't know
Yeah, yeah,
anything, and so it
yeah.
just like totally makes more sense. Um,
Quickly, do you know like when they like how does the process work with talking to Uematsu? Like, is it like here's the story, like and we need this song to be like this, or is it
I
oh like
I
does he appreciate the characters and then writes the score or like, how does that work?
I
Not
think
that you
I've
would know,
seen
but
in interviews that it is more like what you're describing, where he is
mm,
sort of he knows like, you know, or the like the theme of the scene, like the scene, or like he has some background to like what this, you know, if it's like a town theme, like what kind of town is it, like a seaside town, or like I feel like I remember reading that he has like that sort of knowledge,
okay.
and then he can just see that in musical form and then just create it because he's a freaking genius.
Exactly, and like he's a genius. So like you could be like, I need this, and he'll be like, oh, but there you
Yeah.
go, money please. Um, but like the obvious ones are like uh Costa del Sol in FF7.
Yes.
It's like this is Mexico, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, how about this? It's like,
Sure.
yep, or it's like not Mexico, more like Caribbean or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Like a
and
coastal town.
coastal town, resort town. Oh, okay, here you go.
Yeah,
The
resort town.
opposite.
That's actually, yeah,
Yep.
exactly what that sounds like. Yeah.
Um, but so like that's easier. It's like, oh, this is a, Barrett's whatever. It's like, oh, this is a hard blue collar kind of
Yeah.
machinery focused coal mining town. No, Umatsu could like put that together in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But even like, okay, so here's Aerith and here's her whole deal. And every time you hear this theme, you need to like hold back tears for the entire game. Um, can you do that? Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah,
do it in
no
my lunch
problem.
break, kind of thing. Yeah.
I got you.
So that's just cool stuff. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
I believe it, and that's probably why that if that is how he does, like how his sort of method is, that's probably why it has such the emotional impact because it's like he's
Mm,
aiming for that, right? Like they
mm,
tell him, we want it to invoke this emotion, or it's about, like you said, like this type of a town or whatever. And he's like, okay, like let me just narrow that down. Yeah, that's the sound it is. Like that
yeah.
should. So it's probably why it hits harder on those notes because I feel like he must have that sort of background going into it. And for most of it, I'm sure there's some that's like, give us just a town theme or something. Okay,
Yeah. I
I'm sure
wonder
he
if
could.
I wonder if even there's like the third slash reverse where it's kind of like he writes something and they almost kind of like design like a town or design a plot beat
Sure.
to that music kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I wonder if I think we talked about this a little bit where it's like the story you write the music and then write the story around it, or it's like
Yeah.
here's a theme and like, oh, okay, maybe this maybe Tifa is maybe her music was built before she was kind of built or something like that.
Right.
But anyway, just
Yeah, it was
wondering.
like Xenoblade. I was talking about the
Yeah,
cutscenes,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. That's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, he can do no wrong one way or the other. So whatever he's doing, it worked. It worked
yeah,
profoundly on us.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Agreed.
it also nine also had one of the best like opening title songs. It's called like I think it's called "The Place I'll Return to Someday," and it's just
Yeah,
that sort of like woodwind sort of flute
yeah,
sort of instrument.
yep.
Like god damn, that song is good. And oh my god, what's her name? Susan Calloway. Is
Okay.
she the one that I think she's the one that sings at the Distant Worlds concerts a lot? I think that's her name.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I know she's done some FF14 stuff, but I think she's done Distant World stuff too. Yeah, she definitely has. And like she did like a vocal version of that song at the Distant
Mm.
Worlds.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's beautiful.
And
The,
I love it too that nine kind of in the same way that um 4 and 6 on the SNES, like same hardware, just figuring out how to manipulate it more elegantly, whatever.
yeah,
Nine's music had just like it was kind of next level compared
yep,
to seven or eight, which were no slouch either.
yeah.
Um,
So it was
just the
like FF7 was more like produced sound, like that, like
hmm
less full orchestra stuff.
Yep, yep.
If any, maybe One Winged Angel, but I don't even think that was a. I don't know. I could be speaking. I don't know anything about this stuff, but a lot of
Mm.
it was more synthy kind of like sounds or whatever. And then eight was, I believe, the first like full orchestra soundtrack. But then it's
Yeah,
like
yep.
then they just figured like they just really like flexed with nine. Like, oh, you're
Yeah.
giving us an orchestra now? Okay, hold on a second. Let me redo or let me write some stuff that'll blow your friggin' mind.
And the woodwind like had like kind of echo to it, like it
Yeah,
was just really
it
it was a
really sounded like a
beautiful
live
soundtrack.
concert almost.
Yeah, yeah.
The
No,
other,
the music in that was really good, and it was funny. It was almost disarming in the way that like it seemed really ju- juvenile, almost like all the characters were kind of like
well, and
silly and
they had
yeah,
like this
yeah,
like this the sprite proportions almost like they didn't
yeah,
look, because it was really a love letter to like Final Fantasy's like
Old stuff.
origins. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Steiner was not an intimidating
No.
looking dude.
Yeah.
Whereas like in real life, he would be like essentially like,
It'd
a
be like
bulldog
Barrett in
looking.
armor.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas he just looked kind of like, not derpy, but it's a love letter to
Nah,
the old kind of
y-
style.
yeah, he like didn't
And
have his like armored like shoes looked like slippers because he had like no socks or whatever. Like yeah, he just looked
yeah,
so goofy.
but the
Um,
music was just like, whoa, okay, hold on. This is a next level Final Fantasy game here. Like this is
yeah,
FF9. This is not FF1 or 2 here. So yeah, yeah.
and one thing that I love is like the way because they did since it is sort of a love letter to like the older origins of Final Fantasy and stuff is um, their battle theme because 8 and 7 didn't necessarily do this, but 1 through 6 did it. And I actually shout outs to Tara C Music again because I messaged her like 20 minutes before we recorded, and I was like, "Is there a musical term for this thing? Because I don't know what to
Oh,
call
nice.
it." And it's like the first like second of all the battle themes on like the old FFs, like especially the Super Nintendo ones. Where I'm
Oh,
not
that.
gonna be able to do it because I can't roll my R's, but it's like the
Yeah.
and it goes
Yeah.
into the theme.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's called so shout outs to her. It is called a musical run, is what she called it.
Mm.
It's like okay,
Okay.
that sounds
Nice.
better than what I was trying to explain it. So shout outs to her for saving me on that one. But it has that, whereas
Mm.
7 and 8
Yep.
didn't really do that, and so it was like another way they sort of paid homage to the origins because even like FF1 did that. I'm pretty sure all
Yep.
6 of
Yep.
those first ones all did it.
Man,
Um,
and that battle theme is awesome too.
so
Like,
good.
and like, I don't know what it is, but even like the first like 10 seconds of it, of just that build up in the like
Yeah.
um so,
Yeah.
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 So sometimes the battle theme you don't get to hear as much of 2 minutes into it because your battles last like 30 seconds or
Right.
whatever. But like e- every time I hear like get into a battle in that game, it's just like, yes, this track is awesome.
Which also
Which
is
is
like um, what's the word? A testament to
mm,
like someone like Uematsu. It's like you got to make that battle theme knowing I'm probably only going to hear 45 seconds of it like 1,000 times or
yeah,
whatever. And
yeah,
very rarely will I hear the whole thing. So it's like it can't be annoying. Like it can't be an
mhm,
annoying sound to hear
yep,
repetitively, and it isn't. It never is. It's always great.
yeah. Um, a tiny sidebar, but the I guess the Terrace music is a good segue here, just because you talked about Chrono Cross. The like, if you boot up that game and let like the not the opening FMV, but kind of like
Like the trailer, sort of.
the trailer kind of
Yeah,
thing, the
yeah.
music, and I remember
She,
watching that before playing Chrono Cross, and I was like, holy crap, this
yeah,
is amazing.
she covered that
Um,
song too. It's on that album, and it's
oh
I think
man.
it's I won't I'll mess up the name if I try to remember. But yeah, that track is awesome. It's
Like
so good.
that's full hype of just like, I'm gonna play this game and right now, like
Yeah,
and oh, it's just so well done. That was like a full on trailer, a 0 words trailer kind of
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yeah. It
yeah.
was excellent. Um, okay, let's take a super quick break because we're gonna jump into FF7 talk, and that will go on for a while.
Game over.
Yeah. So we might as well just take a quick break here, and then we'll jump right into that stuff.
All right, cool. See
Cool.
you guys soon.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. So continuing our discussion here about Final Fantasy music, we wanted to clear out, make a clearing for FF7 talk because that's the one we could probably talk about the most. Um, so
Clear the runway. This is
yeah,
here we go.
yeah,
This is
exactly.
we have full permission to go into FF7
Yeah.
modes. Yeah. Okay.
So now, specifically about remake, because I just find this super interesting the way they handled the music in that game. Is I read this interview where it was like, in the same vein that they didn't want to just remake FF7
Mm.
OG as
The
is,
story.
because they're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
just play it. Like, it exists now. Go play it if that's what you want,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And I guess we should say there be some spoilery talk in this for 7 Remake, so if anyone is avoiding that, just be aware. Um, so one of the things, because they had said, I forget which, whether it was the producer or game director or whoever, said to think of 7 Remake as a sequel, not a
Hmm.
redo, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I remember
and
someone said like it's a remake, not a um like a remaster or whatever.
right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even like the people making it said, think of it as a sequel. It's
That's what I mean.
not,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
exactly.
not a
Yeah, yeah.
redo. Um, and so what's really interesting about that is, so they intentionally did a lot of stuff with music in that game,
Mm,
where it was like they tried to mess with your expectations of what the song is going to do, the same way the story messes with your expectations of what you're expecting it to be.
hmm.
So things like you get there's some versions of like the just like general FF7 battle theme, excuse me, and boss theme, but then it's like 2 minutes into those songs, it's like goes off the rails and does this whole
Yeah,
new thing, and you're just and it's meant to do the same thing that the story is doing to you because they know you've heard that battle theme like 10,000 times before. So when they're
yeah,
doing it and they're like, just kidding, it's like going this direction, it like
yeah,
it like gets your attention, right? Because it subverts what you're expecting it to do, much like the
yeah,
story does. There's some deviations in the story that people caught people off guard.
yeah.
And my favorite sort of version of that is obviously the One Wing Angel version in this game. So this is where the spoiler talk comes in a little bit because it's you have to think of Sephiroth in that game like that. Sephiroth knows everything that has
Yeah,
happened.
exactly. Yeah,
It is not, you're not meeting, he's not running into these problems for the first time, right? He
yeah,
knows the
yeah,
storyline of Original 7 and Advent Children. So the coolest thing about what they do with his song is like, so the OG One Winged Angel from 7, original, is like, it's kind of like, Sephiroth is like, in the original he's like a little bit like preachy, pretty
hmm,
full of himself, like he just expects everyone to like follow his word and trust that he has the plan or whatever. And so
yeah,
it's like the original version of One Winged Angel is like it was the first, I believe it's the first like sung lyrics in a Final Fantasy song.
probably.
I
Yep,
I
yep,
don't think any other song in 7 had like
no,
lyrical, accompaniment, and
yep,
that one does. And it's very grand and like kind of like I think of because it's got the lyrics for the first time, it's like kind of almost graceful, but
yep,
like also ominous with that the way that track starts, which is kind
yep,
of like to me like what Sephiroth thinks of himself in
yep.
the original game. And then you go
Just
to
built up to be like, look,
like
what's his whole line? Like, I deserve the planet or to rule the planet or
right.
whatever. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly. And then you get to Advent Children, and it's like the One Winged Angel starts, and then it goes into this like rock version of that song
yeah,
with like a 3 minute like guitar solo in the middle of
yeah,
this track. And it's like to me, it's like that rock version adds intensity to that track we already know, and it sort
yeah,
of kind of amplifies like Sephiroth is pissed that you
pissed.
defeated
Yeah,
him and he's
yeah,
coming for blood. Like he's
yeah,
not playing around this time, right?
yeah,
Um, and then you get to remake, and remember this Sephiroth knows those things that already happened,
yeah,
as evidenced by his black wing that he only got
yeah,
in Advent Children.
yeah,
Um, so we know it's that version of him that knows all this
yeah,
stuff. And we'll talk about that in depth later when we talk about the game itself.
yeah,
Um, but so, and they even, I remember I read something about this in an interview where they did not want to just redo One Winged Angel because you just can't. Like, you can't make that song better by just
yeah.
trying to do the same thing in a better way or whatever.
It's it's already a full orchestrated whatever.
Right.
It's
It's
like,
like,
yeah, you
how
got to
do
do
you
something
just like
different.
level
Yeah.
that up by doing the
Hmm.
same, melody or
Hmm.
whatever? So they evolved. If you listen to that song, it's like it starts sort of the same, but it goes on for like an extra like 2 or 3 seconds
Yep.
for that opening part,
Yep. Yep.
and then like when like the choir kicks in, it's like kicks in full blast, like as like uh, like ominous and like uh, like I don't know what the right word is, but like threatening as possible. And
Yep.
it's like that song evolved the way Sephiroth did. Whereas like, oh, you
Yep.
think you know that how this is going to end because you're fighting me at the end of a Final Fantasy VII game? Well, guess what?
Yep.
Fuck you, because here's this song that is you don't know what's coming in this song, and it's like that's how he's treating you as the player. It's like you
Yep.
don't know what's going to happen here.
And
Um,
like, I'm gonna throw a building at you while I'm not.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's like the way that his song, just his one, that song in 3 versions evolves like the way he is evolving. And like it kind of
Yep.
mirrors what his feelings are towards like you as the player or, as Cloud or whatever. And I just love that. Like when I really like read up on these interviews and really listened to it again, it's like, yeah, and it's like to make you feel like on edge or
Mm.
like not unsafe, maybe like too extreme of a word, but like not comfortable because like you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
and you're ready to sing this song and hum to it the way you've
Yeah.
heard it a million times,
Oh,
and
I
then
know
it's like
this. I know how this goes. Like, yeah, maybe the articulation of it is like you try to sing along in the literal, I know how this goes, and oh wait, maybe I don't know how this goes. Maybe I don't know how this story goes.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. It
and
mirrors like the story of because then at the end, big time spoiler alert, Zach is alive. What the fuck?
yeah.
Like, it's like okay, I don't know what's happening. Like, yeah, it just plays
um,
into that so well with just the music alone. Like, it tells its own story.
it's cool because even subconsciously, I remember whether it was when the opening cinematic was either released as a trailer, quote unquote, or when the demo came out for like the first half of the first chapter or whatever. Um, the the bird flying over clouds into Midgar, and it has the kind of one wing angel uh low key version
Yep.
in the music, as they're looking up at the kids are looking up at the reactors and whatnot, and even then, and the lyrics are going nice and slow so that you can catch that it is subtly different.
Yeah.
Like even in the chorus, it's anyway, I don't know what exact Latin word is slightly different,
But it is,
or
yeah. It's different from the
but it is.
OG lyrics. Yeah.
And so if you were kind of humming along in your head, immediately, first cinematic, first 10 seconds. Oh, wait, this is different. Yep. Welcome to remake.
Yeah. And
So
even
like
when you see when it does that classic shot of Aerith like looking in at the live stream coming out
mm,
of those pipes or whatever,
hmm
she
hmm
gets up and like something flickers and she's like it's like, wait, that's
yeah.
not supposed to happen. And like
Like what similarly, Aerith knows the whole deal as well. So if she is um spooked by something, it's almost like, wait, it's different than what she remembers too, kind of thing.
right.
So yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just like the fact that that much thought goes into how they just wrote a song. That's a
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
That's
It's
one
not even
song, and it tells this
it's not even
huge story. Like it's so crazy.
it's not even a song. It's part of a song.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's like how you like re-recorded parts of this song.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, and so the other thing I just love so much about Seven Remake is and this is sort of similar to why I loved Xenoblade so much. The way they score a lot of their cutscenes is just
mm.
outstanding. And the point that got me the most, and it was like, so 7 Remake came out in early 2020, and we all know
Oh
how
yeah.
things were going, in the world when that was going on. So I was like laid off of work for like 8 weeks or something. It happened like the week before 7 Remake came out, so I was okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And So I was playing like 16-hour days or something playing 7 Remake when it first dropped because I didn't have to work, so it didn't need to be anywhere.
You you beat that faster than any human I've ever seen complete a game. I was
I
like,
had 90 hours and the platinum trophy by the next Tuesday. Like before the next Tuesday.
I think I had sent you a text that was like, "Hey, I'm
I got my
finally at."
disc or something.
No, well, yeah, I also was a few days behind for that reason, but I feel like I texted you and I was like, "Hey, I'm in new territory. I'm in like a second after where the demo would take me after you blow up
Right.
the scorpion thing," and you were like, "I just beat the whole game," and I was like, "God damn it, that
And
was intense."
that was
Um,
purely because I was off work for weeks, so I was
mhm,
like, what else am I gonna do? Am I not gonna play the game every waking minute? It was literally
yeah,
there was one night I was playing it, and it was like I was going on like hour 17, and I was like, oh man, I'm tired, and I just had a pillow on my couch, and I was just like, controller in hand, just like I woke up like 4 hours later, I was like, all right, let's keep going, I'm
yeah,
good. Um,
amazing.
but so that's the headspace I was in what I'm getting
Oh
to.
yeah.
I was just so like inside this world of this game. Like I was so sucked in because I was playing it so long. Um, when you get that first like extra mission you do, that's like this deviation where you go to the reactor with like
Oh, and they're
Jesse.
turning on the lights and stuff.
Yeah, with like
Yeah.
Jesse. No, no, sorry. The not that one. It's when you go on like the motorbike
Oh,
chase
yep,
with
yep.
Jesse and Biggs
I
and
know where
Wedge.
you're going with this. Yeah,
So, what's his name? Roche? Is that his name? The soldier?
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Um, when you get to the cut, you do that whole sequence. You if you don't have or you fall in love with Jesse unless you don't have a soul, and then
Yeah,
you go in
exactly.
you go into that sequence where the jig is up and you're rushing in and Cloud's gonna fight off everyone while they're doing their thing, and Roche comes in, and so the song is called Ignition, and it's
Hmm.
the cutscene when he like comes in, gets off his bike, and gives his like monologue to Cloud,
Yeah.
and it's like
In the most Japanese
yeah.
anime,
Yes.
like that
Classic
everything about
anime villain speech. Um,
everything about that, I was just like, I love every second of this, and I know it's ridiculous,
yeah.
but yeah, yeah. Uh,
But if you watch that cutscene and you listen to the music, that to me was like, here's the cutscene, please score it. Like, please
yeah.
write the music to go with this. That's
Hmm.
how it feels because it literally is like just like that slow build up while he's giving his speech and he's like drawing his sword on like the pavement or whatever, and it's just like I had a moment when that cutscene was playing where it was just like what like this is a freaking video game like oh like how is this even possible because I always think back to like how much better Advent Children looked than obviously OGFF7
Oh,
cutscenes and
oh
that
yeah,
and
yeah.
that was like oh man like the games are good but look at this movie like that's crazy how good that looks and it's like it hit me like this looks better than the movie did and it's in
Oh
engine
yeah.
like it's not even a fully rendered CG cut. It's like in engine like cutscene,
Yep.
and
And
it blew my mind how and it was the music. The music is the thing
yeah.
that triggered it in me. Like oh my god, like what am I watching? Like the way the music was like scored perfectly to the like the sequence that was happening on
e-
screen. Ah,
every single beat of the scene itself, was perfectly timed, and I think like he's in it, not in or on his motorcycle. He is like carrying his motorcycle,
yeah,
yeah, in the air or whatever, at
yeah.
the perfect like most insane part of the track.
Yeah. And just
And
that
I
like
remember talking,
slow build up while he's delivering his monologue. It just like I think that was
yeah.
the moment I was like, oh my god, what am I watching? Like it's so cool.
And it perfectly like the intensity and wildness
Yes.
of the music really and you and I talked about this where it was like yeah, this game does a really good job at kind of taking concepts that were maybe more subtle in the OG five, pick or five polygon, models, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, people who are soldiers are effing crazy. Like
Yeah.
you have to be a special kind of insane to
Or you become
anyway
insane when they do all their experiments on
all
you.
their experiments. Yeah, like
Yeah.
to be able to survive it. I feel like you have to be a certain kind of like insane to survive whatever sort of experiments they do on you, and then you come out the other end being a total nut job
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And they even like played into that when you're talking to like Aerith's mom, where
Mhm,
she says like,
mhm.
soldiers can't live normal lives. Like,
Get the hell out of here.
yeah,
Like you
exactly.
are bad news.
And she
Yeah,
she basically tells you to leave in OG7, but that's about it. She's just like, yeah,
yeah.
I don't want her to be in danger, so please leave. But it's like they just fill that out a lot more and like why she feels that way, and as evidenced by this guy you've already met at that point in the game, right?
And like again, I haven't played Crisis Core yet.
Yeah,
I've played the or I've watched the original or whatever, but like it's kind of like, yeah, as you more and more you learn about soldiers, it's like, oh yeah, all these people are crazy. Like
yeah,
you don't get to soldier first class by being just a hardworking general, whatever. Like
right.
you have to be legit screw loose,
Yeah,
like kind
yeah,
of.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And God, yeah, that cutscene is like the thing I'll if I could experience any part of that game again for the first time, it would probably be fighting Sephiroth, but second place would be watching that cutscene again and having that moment I had because it just
I'm
it leveled up in my head. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe what I'm watching right now.
I'm glad you brought that up because I kind of forgot about that scene. Like like when I think remake, I was like, oh yeah, like the whole Rush thing,
Yeah,
and the music that builds up. Yeah, of course. And then I remember you and I talking about every
yeah. I made Matt
millisecond
call me
of
the second he finished remakes, and then we talked for like 4 hours about it.
yeah, exactly. Kind of like which is the whole impetus of this whole podcast to begin with.
Pretty
It's like
much, yeah.
we do
Pretty
this anyway.
much.
Let's put it in a podcast. Um, but yeah, that and like you said, the Sephiroth fight. I just love when okay, you've beaten the game in that like you've hit the last button that you need to kind of hit, and it's kind of like it the one wing angel kind of track builds and
Oh,
everyone gets like a hit at
yes.
like big parts like
The big
Tifa,
dramatic slowdown of each one, and yeah.
yeah,
And while the
that is
music is like going off the rails, like like building to that conclusion, right up
oh
until
man,
Cloud's coming to come down on him, and it's like that ending of One Winged Angel with the strings. It's like da
yeah,
da 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 da, and then like da da
yeah,
da, and it's just gone, and it's over. It's like,
gone,
oh my
yeah,
god,
yeah.
it's so good.
Like that's like the classic moment of like I've got goosebumps. Like I
Oh.
just kind of I've thrown my controller down. It's just like okay, finally, Jesus Christ. And then like Red 13 kind of and then like Tifa like punches one of the ghosts
Yep.
because you're just kind of there
It's
to
like
kind of clear the way
it,
of all the plot ghosts kind of thing.
exactly, yeah.
And then it's like and then Cloud final strike and he's gone and you're just like fuck, I love Final Fantasy. uh, it's
Yeah,
just like
if you're
god
here
damn
for
it.
that type of thing because you're a Final Fantasy nerd, like that is exactly what you want out of a final confrontation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Anyways, and like I mean, they've got it down. They know how to do this kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
stuff. But
I have no worries at all about part 2 at this point. Like I'm all in
oh
at this point. That was like proof of concept for me is how that entire game felt start to finish. And it's like, yeah, more of that please. I will buy whatever you put out.
yeah, and oh, the music in that is so good, and especially but we talked about the Genova theme in the last podcast, which like is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, build up
So
or
one
character in the game.
one
Yeah.
really neat thing about that, I don't think I mentioned on the podcast, but um, I think you've watched Alex Mulaka, I think his name is. I think you've watched some of his stuff before, have you? He does like
Probably, yeah.
music covers stuff. Maybe I've sent you something of his before, but he did this really interesting like deep dive on the Genova theme, and the short version of it is like Genova, as we know it, is like a shape shifting alien, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like this, like a normal. God, if I try to quote it, I'll get it wrong. But I'll use numbers, excuse me, that are probably wrong just to emphasize the point. But like the normal amount of like key changes in a song is usually
Mm.
like pretty low. Like we'll say
Okay.
2 or 3 times is like normal. That
Yep.
is probably
Mm-hmm.
wrong, but just for reference, like for an
Sure.
example. And it's like the Genova theme changes keys like 9 times or something,
Constantly.
like
Yeah.
insane
Yeah.
amount of times. And it's like it's like it's so thematically perfect that this song that is specifically called the Genova theme, and Genova is a shape shifting alien, her music
Yeah.
doesn't even stay the same, right? Like
And
her,
like, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, like her music constantly changes what you're expecting it to be because if you have a musical ear, you're not expecting like 9 or 10 different key changes or whatever it ends up being. It's just yeah,
And this is why, like anyone doing, and this is why it was really cool. Again, the remake concert with Cam was like, man, there is a treasure trove of uncharted territory with video game music, and to study it, because I remember there's something. I tried to text Cam. I'll see if I get any stuff from him. Is like, oh man, the time signature in this track is ridiculous. Or
right,
not Genova specifically, but something else. And then I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, like, no one does this.
right,
And then when he told me that, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is for some sort of character who's kind of quirky, whatever. Maybe it was like Yuffie or something like
sure.
that. And it was just like, man, even just like the theory behind the musical theory behind it
And
is
that's
another
why I
layer that
think
you,
what you were saying earlier is probably more often what the case is when he's making a theme for someone. Is like that
yeah,
to me would be something he would do knowing that this character is sort of like, off kilter or kooky or whatever. Like
yeah.
that makes sense that he would that's how he would get to a track that is this weird way to write a song if it's just a weird character or whatever, right? Like the
Yeah.
Genova theme, like, oh, shape shifting alien, no problem. 1 second, let me just change a few things
Mm.
here,
And I
and do all
wonder
that
that
stuff.
that might be interesting where it's kind of like if the director notes to Uematsu were like, this is a shape-shifting alien that's, bit, trying to destroy whatever, whatever. And
Yeah,
it's like, okay, what's the music theory of a shape? It's like, oh, okay,
yeah,
I'll do some crazy whatever time signature, and I'll just kind of change key. I'll do a key change every 10
and
seconds,
like
or
and
whatever.
like you or I would not be like, oh wow, they went from C to whatever, but
No,
it's
but
like
you hear that it's weird. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
and like that has to do something to you listening to it. Even if we didn't know she's a shape shifting alien in the early on of the first time you hear a theme, it just
yeah.
like there's a reason why it just fits so well. I think for
Well, even though we don't have that training, it subconsciously will
right,
easily kind
it
of
has to do something like that to
resonate with
us.
us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's just so cool. That's
yeah.
so cool.
God, I love stuff like that. I just love when I find a new like a YouTube channel that talks about this stuff. He does a lot of FF14 music analysis. That's how I found
Okay.
him.
Yeah.
And then he did some stuff for Seven remake like that. Genova, I guess, was OG7 as well. But yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like um playing OG7, first time fighting Genova, and it's because you're like, okay, normal fight theme, boss theme, fight theme, and then that kicks in.
Different
It's
theme.
almost like it's like this is me playing the game, whatever, and it's just like Genova theme, like, oh shit,
Yeah,
it's like, okay,
yeah.
this is
I
real.
don't recognize this song.
Yeah, and like, kind of like I call it in my head like the Atmo weapon effect.
I was
When like
literally about to say it's like that theme in 6 because you're just like, what?
um
Well, what is this song? Should I be
it's like, oh,
scared?
okay, yeah, and it I swear there's a sidebar and a sidebar, but like with Atmo weapon, it's like, oh, okay, um, the Emperor has kind of raised this island, like whatever, just kind of standard stuff. And but then like not only is this like a boss that you should probably pay attention to, because he's gonna like totally F you up if you don't,
Yeah,
but like the whole game, the whole world, it's again spoiler alert, everyone. The whole world changes literally
yeah.
after that. And so kind of fighting Genova, Shinra building, and just like, oh man, like shit, things are kind of nuts right now.
And
Like
then
this
the
this isn't just about shutting down reactors anymore.
yeah,
Something bigger is at stake here.
right.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like the musical callback in 6 is the three statues that they move to
Hmm.
destroy the world or whatever. When you fight those three statues later in the game, you get that theme
Yeah,
again. That
yeah.
same
That's
theme
right.
when
That's
you're
right.
fighting Atma
Yep,
Weapon. So it's just like
yep, yep,
that
yep.
connection that it's not just like, let's throw a different boss theme. Which ones do we have again? Pick this one. It's like, no, there's a
Yeah.
reason they're picking that one for those specific themes. And then I'll talk about this a little bit later, but 14 pays a lot of homage to old Final Fantasy themes,
Oh, really?
and they've done that boss theme, the Atma Weapon boss theme in 14, because you fight those three statues as bosses in that game.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So
Anyways, these are on my notes.
yeah,
Things I need to listen
yeah.
to. That's awesome.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, it's just that like boss theme battle, new theme. Like, should I be scared? What's
Mm.
happening?
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
like
cool.
that's exactly it. Like I'll be kind of like half leaning, like, oh, okay, I should
Yeah.
probably finish up soon. And it's like, oh, wait, okay, hold on, just pause, like, bathroom break, whatever I need. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
One cool thing too is like so. Well, I'll talk a little bit about it after, but so I really like the soundtrack in Final Fantasy 13 as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and the composer for 13 assisted a lot on 7 Remake's soundtrack.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't think I knew that going into the game because I tried to like avoid too much talk about the game itself just because I was like obviously buying it. So I just didn't want to see more than what the trailers showed me. And so it's Masashi Hamauzu. I probably pronounced that wrong, but he's the composer for 13. If you
Okay.
listen to it's called Infinity's End, and it's like when you're
Okay.
in that underground lab after the plate falls, when you like
Oh
play
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
Barrett and you fight all those
Yep.
mutated things. It's the boss fight that plays at the conclusion of that. That is a Final Fantasy 13 track. Like if you
Oh
listen to
really?
that song and you like refresh yourself on what 13 sounds like, it was like I heard that I was like I literally was like, man, this sounds like something from like one of the 13 games. Like am I just hearing a similar melody or something? And I eventually looked up and was like, oh yeah, of course. Hamazu is helping on this game. That is 100%
Oh,
his influence. Is like that song at the very least is like probably
I
one he was more heavily involved with.
I'll have to look at that in more detail because I remember being like, oh, okay, this is one of the not deviations from the original script, but
Just like a
just
new song.
expanding,
Yeah.
or sorry, at least a new level or a
Oh
new
yes.
dungeon.
Yeah.
Um, but then I remember the music. I remember at some point kind of saying like, oh, this is new music, but something familiar to it. So I'll look at it with that
That's
filter.
probably it's probably the 13 like influence that year because I literally like I was like, man, what's that song again? I thought it was the Valkyrie boss fight, so I like looked at it. I was like, nah, that's not the one I was thinking of. And I just was looking at the track list because I know it was around that part of the game, like it was near the end. And I was just like,
Hmm.
Infinity's End, what's that one? And I played it, I was like, oh my god, that's the one. Like immediately, I was like, that's the song.
Okay, no,
Um,
I'll definitely look that up.
yeah. Um, but anyway, and then there's like when you're playing as Tifa in the Shinra building, and she has to do the little like
Oh, I
it's like
love
that
that
one
part.
song that plays for like 5 minutes. You're like that was the coolest song I've ever heard. Like it was so good.
I love that, and it was funny. I remember watching Brianna White do her playthrough, and she was kind of like, "Oh, this is kind of a little clunky," and I was like, "No, I love this scene."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. You're kind of monkey bar, finding some treasures and moving on, but um, and in the way that everything in remake happens, every incremental progress throughout the dungeon, it adds more tracks onto it,
Right.
and so.
And
I
if
remember
oh, go
I,
ahead.
I, I,
Sorry.
had the, I had the toughest time like finding that you had to kind of climb up on the car. Like I was just like, where am I supposed to go?
Right.
Like, um, and so I heard like just the bass riff for the longest time, and then when you get up,
Okay. Yeah. It like
it
progressively adds more as you get closer.
it added like the full synth, and then so I was just like, yeah, this is baller. I was super happy with that. That's one of my favorite tracks in the whole game, to be honest. I love that one.
And it's like, if you think about, it's like they're literally jumping and flying. Like, just jump over that gate. It's like
I know.
but it's like I don't care because that scene and that music is so good. Like, I do not care how devoid of logic this solution is. I get to hear this sick like synth
Yeah.
track for no reason. I'm on board.
I was like, 'cause- yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, Tifa has
It's like 10
proven
feet.
that you she could jump over a building. Like it's not even like it's a I think it was like a force field of some sort, but it had,
That's how she got in. She had to get
yeah,
above it and jump down into it. And it's like I'm pretty sure she jumps higher than that when she does her limit break. Like, it's
yeah,
not,
exactly.
but it's
So,
like I don't care.
like you said, I will suspend disbelief to infinity for Final Fantasy VII has earned that
Yeah,
privilege.
exactly.
That's like I don't care, whatever, doesn't matter.
And I truly think like that task might be annoying if it didn't have music to it.
Oh yeah, no, the
You know what I
music was
mean?
so good. And it was like unlike anything. It wasn't a tease to the Shinra theme. It didn't have the main whatever. It was just like nope, just something completely different,
Yeah,
and was just baller. It was awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we'll say about seven, and then we'll just take a quick break before we wrap up the last segment. Um,
Sorry,
that like
it's fine. The last thing we'll say about
yeah, I
seven.
know.
Nice try.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Trigger
um,
warning. Yeah. Spoiler alert. It's not.
the friggin' like EDM dance version of the battle theme when you're doing squats was
Oh
like
yeah.
they
Awesome.
did
Yeah.
not need to do an entirely new version of that song for this one mini game, but they did, and they went so hard on it. My only annoyance is that the official track on Spotify is like a minute and a half long.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
give me 6 minutes of this, please. Because it's just so friggin' good, and it just suits like that mini game. Like it doesn't sound
Yeah.
like a combat track when it's done in that way. It
Yeah.
literally sounds like something that they'd be listening to in that gym while they're all obsessed with their bodies and pumping. I don't remember. I feel like there's a thing they always say, but yeah, that whole area is just so insane.
I know.
Just about
I
being
mean,
like the. I don't remember. I can't. I'll get it wrong if I try to guess. But I feel like they had some sort of like mantra they
very
kept yelling.
yeah, very specific, like, yeah, mantra, like you said. Yeah, yeah. And it's just like, this is so weird. And they made it even weirder, but like in a fan servicey kind of way.
Yes.
Like, in addition to like, okay, I know that they're gonna like do the cross-dressing thing and blow it to like insane levels. Like that's going to happen. But um even like I was like the squats are gonna be a bigger part of the story than you think they are. uh, I kind of that was my like guess. I was like, I feel like squats is gonna be a bigger mini game than it should be because it's a total fan servicey thing.
Yeah.
Um, and then just to have a whole new track altogether
Yeah.
for
For
it.
that mini game, that's the only
Yeah,
time that thing plays is when you're doing that as either Cloud or
yeah,
Tifa later.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
God, it's just they did not have to
I mean,
do that, but of course, like it just that's one of those things where that mini game would still be fun, but if it was just playing like the normal battle theme or no music like it did in the original, it didn't play a special track when you did that mini game. Like it would
yeah.
have been fine, but it's just like you want to go again to get that high score and listen to that track. Like you know what I mean? It just adds so much.
Oh yeah, and I mean, but anyway, it's like there, it's funny. There's no debate here. Like the debate here is like, so FF7 remake, perfect game, perfect music. Yep. Okay. See you later.
Totally unbiased opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Glad we had this discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, so we'll take a quick break there, and then I got a couple more things to say about FF music for today at least, and then I have a fun, silly little game to play with Matt at the end, and we'll call it there. So, quick break, and we'll be
All right.
back in a sec.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We'll continue we got a few more things that I want to talk about, at least for today. I know the Final Fantasy slash FF music conversation will continue whether you want to stop it or not. It's like a freight train. It's going to make its way into every conversation we have.
And all roads lead to all roads lead to FF7 in my
Yeah.
mind. So you can't escape it. It's
It's
an inevitability, and
yeah,
especially the music associated with it. So
yeah.
yeah. Mm.
So moving on from episode for the moment. So obviously we talked about a lot about like Nobu Uematsu's work and just how much we love, you know, what he does with the music. Uh, I still really appreciate when Final Fantasy will try something different.
Mm.
As much as I love like Nobu Uematsu, I still enjoy when it will just pull in another composer for a game and like let them sort of take a stab at it. Because like Final Fantasy 12 has a very different sound to it. Like it's different feel and like it is just a very different game. But it
Yep.
it definitely has like a very FF Tactics esque sounding soundtrack.
Yep.
Which
And it's funny too. Like just as a brief interlude here, like I kind of played till 9, and then kind of went to university and really didn't
yeah
play much for a long time. And I only kind of got roped into it again after I came back from working in Japan when you kind of introduced me to 13.
right
And it was like, oh man, okay. Then I kind of got back into it, but I didn't kind of explore the middle ground for
no
very long. I kind of
I
it
was
took a while.
very late to get to 12 because we didn't have a
Yeah.
PS2. We've talked about that before. Like we didn't have the
Yep.
system it was on.
And
Um,
I only played 12 for the first time like in this past year.
yeah, the
So
remaster. Yeah,
the remaster, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So anyways, that music, yeah, it definitely had a different feel, both the game and the music for sure.
yeah. And I feel like it fit the style of that game really well. Like the different
Hmm.
instrumentation they kind
Yep.
of used and just the different overall sound. And there is some like I don't know if it's like 100% confirmed, but there's some theories that connect 12 and Tactics as being in the same world, but like
Universe kind of thing. Yep.
yeah, but just like
Mm.
hundreds of years apart or something.
Mm.
So it kind of makes sense that they would borrow the sort of the sound of. I don't think it's the same composer as Tactics, but it definitely mimics the sound pretty closely, like just the overall sound of that game. And
Cool.
then 13, like you mentioned, is like very different. I don't even know what to like classify its style as, other than just being totally different from old FF and 12.
Yep.
But good God, was that battle theme in my head for weeks from the
Of 13.
of 13. Yeah, the
Oh yeah.
Blinded by
Yep.
Light. I could
Yep.
not get that song out of my head.
Yep.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and it has so it and the sequel, the first one, the 13-2,
Yep.
they both have these like gorgeous, like serene piano, like title screen like themes.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
those two themes are still to this day my alarm when I get up in the morning.
That's awesome, and
I
that's perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the perfect like slow sort of wake up kind of alarm, and I'll just like I have both of them, the 13 and 13-2 title screen themes, and like
Yep.
every like couple months I'll flip it to the other one and go back and forth. And
That's
it's
such a
been that way like literally for as long as I've had a phone that I could do that, where I could set my own alarm as soon as I had
that
got my first smartphone. That's probably
that's
that's like when I started doing that.
that's not only cool, that's a good idea. That's just a good idea.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
just
do that.
love those opening things. And you mentioned how you like introduced you just now that you had the time to play them because you were so
Yep.
busy for those years in between.
A-
Uh,
and it was in the whole vein of like I'd come home at Christmas and Garrett
yes.
would say, "I have games for you to play."
So that
And,
is probably next episode. That's one of the things I want to
that's a
talk
good
about.
topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good story. But yeah, I would essentially the quick version is I would give Matt games to play when he came home for Christmas when he had time to play games, and
And
13 was
and
among. among one of those years.
And that was after like I was away, like because I'd come home at Christmas every year from grad school or from undergrad, but then this was like I was away
For
in
years.
Japan for years.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I'd been away for a long time. Anyway, I won't go too much into this since it's a
Yeah, we'll
different
definitely talk about it
pod.
for sure.
But I remember being like, dude, these are supposed to be quick little things. FF13, this seems like a big endeavor. And I remember, and I was like, and I'm not too sure. Like one of the characters, like he's like some dude with like a chocobo in his hair. Like what the hell's even going on? Like this sounds kind of stupid. And then that first screen with like the very, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just calm piano riff
Mm.
with the crystal, whatever. Like just a few little notes, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna love this game. There's no question.
And I'm so glad because like that game was very divisive, at least in North
Mhm.
America. I think Japan loved it a lot more, but it was
Yep.
it was pretty divisive here. But like I'm of the vein of like it's Final Fantasy mainline. I'm playing it. I don't care what anyone says, and I'll make up my own
Yep.
mind about it.
Yep.
And
And I had kind of leaned on the like, maybe this is the time that I branch away. But then I saw like I don't know, there's something about crystals,
yeah,
and like in my line of work in chemistry, crystals are super important, and like there's a lot of research that you can do on a crystalline solid. And so I don't know, I've always thought crystals as being really cool, and so like big crystal, very like subtle piano riff. I was like, okay,
yeah,
game over.
yeah. And I'm just
Um,
so glad that like you didn't. I don't know if you heard much of the you
mm-mm.
know negative about. But I'm
No,
glad that you didn't, and that it didn't deter you, because you love
it, it,
the 13 games, and we've talked about them
oh
a
yeah,
lot, and I will
and I
defend
really,
those to my
I don't see
dying
how
breath.
anyone, I don't see how anyone could ever. Anyway, and it was funny. The only knowledge I had of 13 was that it had a female protagonist.
Yeah,
And the only reason I knew that was because, like, literally, the Japanese grocery store that I went to had like a huge cardboard cutout of lightning, um,
yeah,
to to, to sell. I don't know, tofu kind of thing. Like it
yeah.
was like, and I was like, "Who's this?" And it's like, "Oh, Matt son, this is Lightning. You don't know Lightning son?" It was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, no, it was like a full-on phenomenon when I was in Japan, not just
Yeah,
video game,
everywhere.
social. Yeah.
Uh, and we'll talk about 13 later when we talk about the games themselves, but it
Mhm.
truly was a transformational game for me because it's like the short version is, and we'll talk about more later, but like FF10 was the first voiced Final Fantasy, and it was pretty like hard to listen to. It's got
It
some
had some
good
rough
moments,
moments.
but it's like very clearly their first attempt at this series doing voice acting and voice directing stuff. It's like it shows. Everyone knows that game just sounds really silly to listen to now. FF12, the writing got a lot better, but like the quality, audio quality, just didn't quite
Mm.
reach like movie sort of standards, or like it sounded like a little not grody, but it just like you could tell it was like
Yep.
it just couldn't capture the crispness that it deserved, right?
Yeah,
And
there's
then
something really funny, or I might even almost say the opposite. It's almost so crisp, it sounds unrealistic, kind of thing. Like sometimes when
sure,
the characters talk, especially like I don't know, the brothers or whatever, it's just like everything sounds so like they're talking right next to you.
sure. And
But yeah.
to be fair, they did clean up the audio a bit in the
Mm,
remaster.
fair.
In the original PS2, like it just sounded kind of like muffled, or like it wasn't
Yep.
quite like a voiceover in like a animated movie or something.
Yeah.
Then 13 is like, okay, the tech is there now, like they're on Blu-ray
Yeah.
disc, and it's like 13 was the first time that I like looked at like Lightning as like a person and not just a
Yeah.
character that someone is providing a voice for. It's like to
Yep.
me like she was like an actual like I know she's not real, but it's
Yeah.
like I saw her as
No.
that. Yeah, I saw her as like that is Lightning's voice. Like that is not so and so
Mm,
voicing Lightning. because the audio was there and the writing was a lot better, and like the motion capture and facial
Yeah,
capture was better, facial animations were better. It was like that was just the moment where I was like, oh, like this is like a person now. Like I'm actually
yeah, yeah,
watching this person go through the stuff versus. And so that's
yeah,
just I think why I just fell in love with 13, but also why I have like 4 lightning posters in my apartment. Because
yeah,
I just
yeah, yeah.
really just loved that character, and it was like that first instance of that where I just saw it. It just changed the game for me. But we'll talk about that when we talk about the games themselves. I just had to
Yeah.
mention that because I will argue. I will defend Final Fantasy 13 to my dying breath up against all the naysayers. I love that game.
Oh yeah, no, and that's there's a special kind of part for 13 in my heart for bringing me back into
Yeah,
the Final
true.
Fantasy universe. Yeah, I mean, I haven't played 14 yet. I don't know if I've got the bandwidth to
It's an
commit to an
MMO. You get a
MMO.
free pass on that one. Don't
Yeah,
worry
yeah.
about that.
But anyway, still, and that comes triply loaded, right? Like there's 13.2 and then Lightning
Yes,
Returns, which
I love all
I
3 of
enjoyed
them.
all of them. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Um,
Um,
but one quick thing that I might kind of add, just I feel like this is a good tie-in to a lot of other podcasts that we've done, is the my first exposure to FF7 music was via Jacques, our cousin.
yeah,
Um, and I don't know if you remember this, but like he had some like downloaded tracks from FF7 before it was released, kind of like it's coming out in Japan soon, and he had some of the music.
true.
Um,
Because it did come out in Japan. Like, I feel like it was a few months before we got it.
oh
So
yeah,
it had
back then it was like 6 months earlier
right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing like the battle theme and like not completely appreciating like, this is FF6, which is FF3 and like,
Yeah.
that even that was kind of hard to wrap our heads around
Yeah.
at the time. But it's like, wait, this is Final Fantasy music? Like I'm used to FF6 battle theme. And now like this is a fully scored, like I remember being like, whoa, this
Yeah.
is out of control.
Yeah.
Um, that and the hurry faster theme.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, were just like I remember Jacques showing us those, and it was just like, okay, so I gotta get me a PlayStation. That's like the first thing. But anyway, that was my introduction in FF7, was just like
Through the music.
the battle theme and then hurry faster, and then being like, okay, every nickel I save stacking wood or picking apples or whatever
Yeah.
is going towards getting a PlayStation. Or I think, as we talked about, I think in the first one, I bought FF7 before I bought a
Right. Yeah.
PlayStation.
Just so we
Yeah.
had it.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. That's. I remember. I think I remember listening to that music there at our cousin's place. I also remember seeing a video, which is like the worst thing ever, but somehow it didn't spoil
Oh,
it for
I know
me
what you're gonna say. I
because I
know.
don't
Yeah.
think I fully understood. And by the time we got to it, I think I maybe forgot that this happens. But it was like, spoiler alert for OG7, it was the video of Sephiroth killing Aerith. And I was just like, because we were so into FF6 at the time, I was like, is that
Yeah.
Setzer? Because he has
Yeah.
the long white hair. It's like, why would he do that?
And then Jacques, no, you morons. Every Final Fantasy is its own thing.
Yeah, right, because we
And
wouldn't really know that at that point.
like I think I had assumed FF6 was like a sequel in its truest form, and it was like, I don't know what happened in 1 to 5, but I guess I'm picking, but at least I know this, so I'll understand
The
the
next
start of
one or
7.
whatever. Right, right.
And so like, oh, Setzer, he seems bad. What's going on?
Why has he got that long sword?
Yeah. Anyways, like it's kind of funny. Um, like the spoileriest thing of all spoilers.
Yeah,
And are you the same? I'm like no spoilers. I think you're even
100%.
more than I am.
I'm.
Um,
Yeah, I don't even
we
want
won't
someone
even
to.
watch trailers
I will.
sometimes.
I will
Yeah.
sometimes cut myself off of trailers. I will tell someone that I know that I will tell someone not to tell me if they like the game or not. Because if they don't, I'll be looking for the thing that they don't like the whole time, and then it will
Yep.
take my attention away. So yeah, I'm super big
Yeah.
on no spoilers.
You're even more no spoilers than I am, and I'm pretty like, no spoilers or you're on my death list kind of thing.
Right.
And it's just like the fact that like my favorite, not even video game, my favorite thing of all time is FF7. And the fact that I had that scene spoiled for me because I remember watching it and being like, I don't think I should have seen this. Like, I'm gonna hate myself for having watched this later. And
Yeah.
then like playing OG7. Oh, this game is making me really like get attached to Aerith for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh crap. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I know what happens here. I better not tell my brother who seems to be ignorant to this.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. It still hit me super hard. I mean, it hits you hard even if you knew that because the way they built her up, like for you to like fall in love with that character, right? So
Yep.
it still
Yep.
had the impact, but obviously, yeah, it would be a lot worse if you didn't know she was gonna die at all.
Like maybe okay, maybe I'll finally look at this in hindsight and say like maybe it's good that I knew that going in because
So
that
you
might have
didn't
been
get
an emotional.
traumatized. You were old enough to be emotionally traumatized by it more than I
Like
was.
let's kind of like go time paradox this and go back and make sure that we had not seen that. Fast forward to me, current day in a mental institution, completely
Yeah. Couldn't save
crippled.
her.
But yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay. Listen, everything happens for a reason, and that
Yeah.
probably is part of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um. Oh yeah, that's too funny. That's the worst spoiler to get to. Oh my goodness.
Oh
Um.
man. Yeah, and it's just like, how is it like all the spoilers in the entire universe? Like, oh, so and so spoiled Avengers Endgame, or somebody spoiled whatever. Like, no, how about like the game that you have loved your entire life and
Yeah.
the biggest, most like even not just Final Fantasy fans, but like biggest video game um like it's a playable character that is now had been killed like that
Like
that
you know,
in and of
20
itself was
hours in or
complete.
whatever on a first playthrough, you'd probably be about 20 hours at that point, or something crazy.
That was completely, everyone was just like, no, you can't, you've leveled up this character, like come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no
Yeah.
way. Um. So. So we talked a little bit earlier about Masayoshi Soken, who is the composer of 14. Um, and the thing I love about that GIF of Zach Galifianakis doing like math, where like
Yeah.
all so
Yeah. Yeah.
every time a new patch or expansion comes out for Final Fantasy 14, that is literally me when I'm playing the new area or the new dungeon. I was like, oh,
Okay.
that song's from that. That's that town theme from FF4. Oh, that's the boss theme from FF5. Like I'm just doing that all the time with because
That's awesome.
the thing he clearly has a love for the legacy of Final Fantasy because he calls back some of these tracks and redoes them in really cool ways, like the near thing. And I'll talk about a couple that he's done. Um,
That's so cool. Like that's like you're not only an artist of the medium, but you're a fan
right,
of the series. Yeah, that's cool.
exactly. And but then when he creates his own tracks. So I sent you those three earlier
Yep.
today. So those are all three songs that he did. And so the three of them, if any listeners want to look up, the first one's called Insanity, which was like one of the final bosses of Shadowbringers. Scream, which is a current raid that's happening now with the boss theme from that. And I don't think it has its own name, but it's I'll never pronounce this right. I always read it. I never say it out loud. The Euphrosyne boss, the newest 24-man raid. The boss stream from that. One is like pretty typical Final Fantasy sound, like the chorus and like the like kind of upbeat and like instrumental stuff. Scream is like some like punk rock song, but it's like
Yep.
got these like really killer like female vocals.
That was good. Yeah.
and really like heavy guitar riffs and stuff. And then that other the boss from the new raid is like some like fiddle and like
I
almost
know.
like country, like obviously more upbeat, but it's like I can't think of the exact genre more than saying like country sort of battle theme. And it's like I love this. Like it fits like the area so well that it takes place in, and
It's
just
it's it's funny because you sent that to me and I had a note here where I was just like, man, so Garrett and I grew up in the East Coast,
yeah,
and I was just like, this has full on like fiddle riffs, East Coast, and it's classic Final Fantasy trying something a little different, like
yeah,
you alluded to earlier.
yeah.
Um, and anyway, I was just like, yes, like I love this. This combines like this is nostalgia level two kind of
Yeah,
thing for so yeah, that was really cool. I like that a lot.
and having those like that one like Soken do all those three, and they're all so good in their kind of respective sort of genre of music.
Yep.
He's just like that guy he's like a musical like chameleon. Like he can just be in these all these different genres and do them super well. And he is composing the music for Final Fantasy 16,
Oh,
which
nice.
has me so excited to the point that if they do release another trailer, I think I'm at the point now where I'm skipping them. I'm not watching any more
Yeah.
trailers
Okay,
because I don't even want to hear the
you're
music.
at your threshold.
Yeah, exactly. Because like it's like already paid for. Like I already own the game. I just gotta wait for it to come out.
When's it
Um,
come out?
June 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Got a week booked off of work. Like I'm set. I'm set for this game. And a large part of it is, and like after watching the first, like I think there's 3 trailers, maybe 4 trailers for 16 now. Uh, as soon as I heard the music before they announced he was composing officially, I was like, oh, this has Soken written all over it. And then each trailer just further, once we knew for sure it was him, it just further emphasized like, oh yeah, I this soundtrack is going to be insanely good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
So some of the just quick things like I was saying earlier, like what Soken does to pay homage to some of the older Final Fantasies. Just some very quick read off some examples. So Shadowbringers, which was the last expansion, had a lot of Final Fantasy 3 kind of references in it, like Japanese Final Fantasy 3. Um,
Yep.
so they've done like they've redone, and when I say these, I mean like they redid a version of these. I think most of them are that way. They did like the Final Fantasy 3, the boss theme, dungeon theme, Crystal Tower theme, and the Cloud of Darkness theme, which is like the final boss theme.
Oh wow.
They've done versions of that, and like you fight the Cloud of Darkness as a boss fight, which is just so cool. Final Fantasy 4, we talked about. They did like the boss theme. They do they have the town theme in one of the towns. I think it's the town on the moon you go to, and it's got the FF4 town theme. They did
Oh wow.
there's a city called Troya in 4, and it's got this really beautiful like harp theme. And I think it's just yeah, it just plays in that one. Yeah, because it's called the Troya theme. But it's like a really beautiful, like melodic, like harp, and another instrument, but it's mostly this harp theme. And they turned that into like a creepy sounding dungeon theme for this like, it's like the town is called Troya, but it's like it's all fallen to darkness and stuff. So they like went to like a minor key with that song and made it like a creepy dungeon theme.
I
Um,
love that where they kind of almost like bend a track to
yeah,
be like a completely different genre. Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah.
super cool.
And then the multiple versions that I got as a personal gift of the Battle of the Fort Fiend
Yeah,
theme.
yeah, yeah.
Of course, I got 2 versions of that friggin' track. I love that thing. Uh, they did a whole themed raid from Final Fantasy V where they did a new version of the FF5 boss theme, the final boss theme, and you also fight the final boss of that game in 14. The battle in the big bridge is a huge one.
Oh
They
wow.
do a version of that
Cool.
because you fight Gilgamesh in that game too. And the area of the raid is like the same theme as the final dungeon. of FF5, like the final area before the last boss. FF6, they did the boss theme. I think they did their own version of the actual FF6 boss theme. Um, they
Hmm.
have a dancing mad fight. You fight Kefka, and it plays the entire a new version of Dancing Mad.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
like I mentioned, the all the and it, so I it's so hard for me to stop calling it Atma Weapon because that's what it was translated to. It's actually Ultima Weapon. It was just translated poorly to be
Oh,
Atma.
that's funny.
Yeah,
That's
because
I didn't know that.
forget where. I think it was maybe in the Pixel remastered that I saw it written as Ultima Weapon. I was like, oh, of course that makes sense.
Of
And
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Atma weapon you get in 6 gets
Hmm.
stronger the more HP you have,
Yep,
and
yep.
so does Cloud's Ultima weapon. It does the
Of
same thing.
course.
So anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
of
know why I
course.
never made that connection, but that boss theme they have a version of it, and they do like no, that is the one. That is the fierce battle theme. Is the Ultima weapon theme. And
Yeah,
then
gotcha.
Final Fantasy VIII, they have a whole raid dedicated largely to Final Fantasy VIII, where they do the FF8 boss theme, like a new version of that. Do you remember the Eden summon? It's like the crazy, it's like the Knights of the
Oh,
Round.
like a spaceship or
Yeah,
something. Like,
yeah, you just
yeah,
fight
yeah.
that thing, and while you're fighting it, it does that summon to you in its entire length. Like it's this like 2 minute cutscene of you getting
I love it.
blasted by, and it's like exactly like frame by frame the same summon.
That's
Um,
so good.
so that was and me in doing the fight, like, oh, this is the, and they're just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. You don't understand. And then like the area that you go to during the raid, like between fights, is the blue fields or like the
Ah, yeah.
world map theme that you get, and it's
Yeah,
a new
yeah.
version of that as well. Uh,
So cool.
and there's more, but I'm just those are the first one I could think of when I was writing them down. But yeah, he just pays so much like respect to like the legacy themes and does new versions of them, which are always, I mean, as fans of the music, it's just always fun to hear a new version of a track you already loved.
Yeah.
And it's again me doing calculations when I'm hearing all that stuff. Like, I need to tell someone about this that
Yeah.
knows.
I need to talk about this with someone.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, he's composing the music for 16. So I don't expect like other FF melodies to be in there other than the prelude and stuff like that. But just to hear what
Let's
he's
go.
gonna do, he's more than proven himself for me at least because he's been composing. I think Uematsu has composed the main like title themes of the first two expansions, and then he took over the rest of it. But the current expansion and the last one, he 100% like did himself.
Oh, wow.
So he's like
Awesome.
more than proven himself. Because man, 14 music. That is where the meme at work started, where I'm like, oh man, this new boss, this music's so good, and it's like, oh, okay, it's everything is so good. I'm like, but it is. I'm not making it up. I'm not being hyperbolic. It's all so good.
It is also true. Yeah.
Yeah, every new dungeon. Oh man, this dungeon theme is so good. Like, okay,
Yeah.
it's like no, but it is though. Oh man. Okay, so that's my kind of spiel about 14 and Soken specifically because I have a lot of hours in that game and I could talk forever about why that music is so good and why he. It's like if he ends up being the one to like carry the mantle of like FF music for a couple, for a couple titles, like we're
Then
we're in good
respect.
hands. Yeah,
We're good.
let
Yeah,
Uematsu rest, please.
yeah.
Give that man a break.
I mean, Uematsu is Japanese, so he'll be doing this well into his,
Yeah, true.
90s, hundreds, whatever.
Yeah, he'll still
Um,
be contributing. Yeah.
but no, it's funny because my buddy Robbie, who games a lot, he also plays a lot of 14, and he's constantly, hey, when are you gonna play 14? I was like, dude, that's like a life crippling thing here.
Yeah,
Like,
you do
I
not have
can't.
time for 14.
I don't have time. I but he's like, come on, come to the dark side, and I've been resisting. So anyway, we'll see. But thankfully, at least the music in that game is so incredible, and you and him both kind of send me stuff all the time,
Yeah,
especially if there are nods
yeah,
to previous games or other franchises
right.
altogether. So it's I assume Soken is Japanese as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of
Masayoshi Soken is his full name. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, kind of it's kind of like if the torch has to be passed at some point, you know what? It can't be passed lightly, but this guy seems to have proven himself pretty well. So yeah,
Well, and
cool.
it's crazy because like 14 originally launched very poorly. Like it was just not well done. It was I don't know if it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just rushed or whatever. It had there's the whole documentaries about how bad it flopped initially, and they made the hard decision to instead of try to fix it slowly, they're like, no, scrap
yeah,
it, start
yeah,
from scratch, and rebuilding. They even built that into the narrative of the game,
yeah,
where
yeah,
like Bahamut comes and destroys everything, and the servers went
yeah,
offline
yeah,
for like 2 years, and then they're all rebuilt when you rejoin. Um,
yeah. That's cool, actually.
and so, with how insanely well 14 has done, and like turned around from how bad it was to what it has like what it very classic like Phoenix Rising kind of story.
Mm,
It's like insanely huge now and insanely well done and critically well received that it's most of the team from my understanding it's a large part of the team that did that work and got 14 back on track and rebuilt it that is working on 16. It's at least being directed and produced by the same producer director uh, that is the for 14. It's the same guy that's like directing,
awesome.
and because it's like very much they've proven that they're worthy of like the Final Fantasy like mantle. So
Mantle.
with
Yeah,
him at the
exactly.
helm and Soken composing, it's like, oh yeah, we are in for a friggin' treat with Final Fantasy
Mm,
16. I can't wait. Um,
awesome.
yeah. So any last FF music thoughts for you before we move on to our final segment?
No, I kind of, in my kind of notes here, a bunch of stuff that we covered. The one thing I'll say is like my PS4, whatever you want to call it, wallpaper or whatever. I remember when Remake came out, there was one that was like just of the group on a dock or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
But there was one that you could get of Tifa in Nibelheim, but like you could only get it with the Japanese version for a while. So I made a Japanese account with Japanese like PS4 whatever. Um, so I
When
could
she's
get
like
that because
sitting on the water tower or whatever.
oh
Yeah,
man,
it's so
I
good.
love it. And it's still my PS4 background. And it's got the like I guess is it the main theme, but a piano version of it. But anyways, it's really, really anyway, it's got the starry sky, it's got
Yep.
the beautiful music, and like that's my PS4 wallpaper, and I don't think I'll ever change it.
Yeah. I think
We
I
did
had the one where they're sitting like at the end of the highway or whatever looking
look,
out.
yeah, that's what it is, the highway looking out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I have
yeah.
that. I had that on my PS4 before I got rid of it when I got my PS5. My Final Fantasy 13 theme, sorry, PS3 theme is still just lightning. I got the
Yep.
13 one from. I think you got it
Mine,
for
my
like beating 13 or something. You get it from a trophy.
my PS3, which I only dust off whenever I play like Tekken Tag 2 with
Yeah,
with you and Mike, is Lightning. And then my PS4, which we just use for watching uh Blu-rays,
yeah,
like watching The Office, has FF7 Tifa, and
yeah,
it's awesome. I love it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Oh man, just such a huge part of our lives. Another thing I just thought about because it's related to FF music that I'll just talk about quick. I don't know if you
Uh-oh.
remember, we made this. I had to make this video for school,
Was this
and
like
oh god, this is like
where we had like hockey stick or like
we're like fighting.
lights? Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
it was a lightsabery kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the music. I don't think it was for the fight we did. It was like we were mimicking like driving away, but we just had like don't like a little car toy or something. Like we were like pretending it was like I just remember it was the song from FF6. where does it play? It's just like do 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 do
Oh,
do.
the is that like the Opera House or no, sorry, the Coliseum
Oh,
or
it might be the Coliseum. I think it might be
yeah,
that.
or
It's
the Impresario.
that, yeah, when you get the
Yeah,
little
yeah,
tutorial on screen once in a while, you get that. And I
yeah,
just remember
yeah.
playing that song to this stupid video. I
I
don't
I
remember.
was like off into the distance. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's
It's because we had the
classic.
soundtrack. I was like, oh, I could use this.
Yeah, man, I've got a soundtrack. It's literally a soundtrack for for this stupid video I got to make for school. I
Uh,
totally. Oh man, that's
I don't know
buried in the
whatever came
archives
of that. What
it's at
was I?
Mom's place somewhere.
What was I making it for? I don't even know what class that. It wasn't high school. God. Anyway,
Who knows? It may not have been
I'm
for
sh-
school at
I'm
all.
sure it is the cringiest thing you could ever watch at this point if I were to watch it again. But I just remember
I'd
we used
love
that
to.
stupid track from
I
Six.
would just love to see a little like Hot Wheels car driving off into the distance to that track. Just that alone, that'd be pretty amazing.
So dumb. Oh, okay. Okay, so we won't do match plats today because I had that reserved if we were like short on time, but we're in a pretty good spot. So I have another very simple game that I just sort of was thinking of the other day. Just a game of either or. So
Okay.
I'm going to give you two things, and I made them all FF themed just to stay on theme with the episode.
Are they FF music themed or just
Nope,
FF in
just
general?
FF.
Okay.
Yeah, just Final Fantasy in general.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
and it's not most of these. There's one that I'm going to tell you a special rule for, but the most like you
Okay.
can like talk them out and like it's not like I don't need a one word answer for these.
Yep. Okay. Deal.
Okay.
What I'll probably do is I will think out loud and then give you my final answer.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So number one, buffing the party or debuffing the boss.
Hmm. Oh, man, these are hard questions.
Yeah.
I feel I'm more of a debuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I mean, I love a good haste or I love a good whatever, but no, I think it's like, oh man, especially if I it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
and
there's a sub.
it's a boss specifically. So
Okay.
assume the debuff works. It's not some cheap thing where the are immune to
Yeah,
debuffs.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I'm a debuff. Like a deprotect is a total game
yeah,
changer for me.
same.
Or I don't know if it's deprotect or makes them anyway, if they've got a protect shield and you crush that, or just make them more susceptible to
Right.
physical attacks,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just like, yeah, do that. Or um, this person is susceptible to fire, and you can make them weak to magic, like
Sure.
game
Okay.
over.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
that's
no,
a good reason. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm a
Combining it with a
debuff.
weakness.
I guess maybe is this the right answer? I'm a debuff kind of spellcaster and a buff equipment
Nope. You
equipper.
can only pick one.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Debuffs then. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No.
Um, Emerald weapon fight in FF7
Oh God.
or
Or
Omega weapon fight in FF8.
oh, sorry, Emerald or Omega.
Yeah.
Okay. No context here. Which one do you hate more? Which one do you like more?
Either
Which
or.
one?
Simple
Yeah.
question.
Either or. Either or. I mean, FF7 it trumps everything.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
yeah. Emerald Weapon. That's the one. It had a timer.
Unless you
And
got the underwater
the,
materia, which was annoying to get.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think like it wasn't anything like Ruby Weapon would. You had to like kill two of your character or one of your characters, or else they were just
You had to
they
have
just
one standing, and he would, if you had more than one, he would like suck them into the sand. So if you went in with
yeah,
two of them dead, he would put his claws in and stop that phase. Like he
yep.
wouldn't do that move anymore, and then you just res them and fight.
Yeah, no, yeah, Emerald Weapon. That was a good. I felt the best beating that one than I did any of the other ones. So
Okay.
yeah, Emerald Weapon. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Omega Weapon in FF8, you could basically just cheese and give Squall the thing, the aura spell, and then give him a hero drink, which makes him invincible, and just spam his
Yeah,
limit
yeah,
break. But it was hard if you missed one and you didn't get the hero potion back up, you'd be dead. Like you had to play
yeah.
it
No,
perfectly. But yeah.
yeah. No, but Emerald Weapon felt like a big accomplishment.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
and and I find Emerald Weapon, but not at level 99. Like, give yourself a little bit of
Yeah. Make it hard.
challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Materia system. Oh, I probably know how this is gonna go because you're just gonna pick the FF7 one. Materia system in FF7 or the
Yeah.
Esper system in FF6.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was kind of writing some notes about um FF7 remake trophies, wondering if we were going to get into that, and I was struggling to remember the what Ifrit, what Shiva, whatever is called in FF7. And I think they're called summon monsters. Like what are
Oh,
they called? Um,
yeah. I don't know what they call.
I mean,
I
if
don't
they,
know.
I don't know if they address them in the actual narrative ever. But
Not that I remember. I don't know if they call them anything specifically other than
but
like
I find like
yeah, monsters or something.
to to me they're forever espers. Esper
Sure.
just like
Okay.
I just love that word. And I guess that's again our indoctrination was with FF6, and so like
Yep.
Ifrit and Madwin are espers, and Shiva and Ramu and things like that. They're espers. So um, but the system, what system is better, the materia system or the esper system? Yeah, materia all the way.
Okay.
Um, just support materia, and like there's some cool deep dives that you can look up of just like how to completely abuse,
Oh, when
um,
I was
you
doing
know,
my platinum run for 7 recently, if you hit Cloud once, he would
yeah,
attack like 13 times.
yeah,
It's just insane. Because one of the trophies was mastering your materia. And
yeah,
while doing that, I had extra slots to just level. So I had like 8 counter attacks and like 4 magic counters.
yeah,
And was there a magic counter and a normal counter? No, the blue counter was like essentially the magic counter, I think. But I had
but
anyway.
like
Because I would pair it with like death blow, and then like I don't think it worked with like 2 times cut. I don't think that worked, but you could just put like death blows in it, and yeah, just like you hit Cloud and you're gonna get hit like 17 times.
yeah, just like the complementarity aspect of materia, how like certain things could complement the other,
Yeah.
is super cool. Esper system was cool too, but yeah, materia for sure.
Okay. I should have put more
Yeah.
FF7 things against each other.
No, yeah, exactly. But still, that one was actually harder than it seemed on the surface,
Sure.
just because
Okay.
espers themselves are pretty cool.
Yeah. Buster Sword or Gunblade?
Ooh, like I love the Buster Sword is the coolest thing ever.
Sure.
Um,
It's
but
pretty
I remember,
iconic.
yeah, Gunblade was. I mean, again, it's a either or question. There are no there's
Yeah.
nothing kind of associated.
Simple
Um,
question.
yeah, the mechanic of having to hit it in the game was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Controlling your own destiny for crits and stuff like that. Um, and I remember seeing that like on the tails of FF7 going into FF8, and like it's on fire. It's like
Oh
the
yeah.
cross squalls. Uh, uh, 51% Gunblade, 49%
Okay.
Buster
Okay.
Sword.
I'll
Yeah,
accept.
yeah, yeah,
One
yeah,
thing, if you ever go back and play the FF8 remaster,
hmm
which I do recommend because it is a very good remaster.
yeah.
Um, Play with the you can turn the indicator off,
Okay.
the red
Oh,
red
so
so
it,
Q can when you're doing your limit breaks. I
yeah.
turned that off, and it was way more intense to like try and get the timings, and
That's
I actually get to see the move because normally you're just looking at
yeah,
that
yeah.
bar on the bottom.
Ping, ping, ping. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah,
That was a really fun way to replay that game. Is just a small thing like turning that indicator off. It was really fun.
cool.
Okay. Landing a critical hit or
Mhm.
dodging a killing blow. So meaning
Hmm.
you're at 1 HP and he goes to hit you and you
Yeah.
miss. That's what I mean by killing blow.
Yeah. Hmm. I love a good crit.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Especially like
The
when,
sound effect
yeah,
changes.
yeah, or a flash or whatever. And when you're not kind of like not relying on it, but it's just like, oh man, okay, that means that I can, instead of doing this whatever, I can. When it means you have to change your strategy on the fly for in a good way,
Okay.
like, oh man, that crit means that I might be able to finish this off now instead
Sure.
of whatever. Yeah, yeah, I love a good crit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Simple
And so
question.
sorry, so I guess that means if I were to equip a materia that would either increase crits or increase
Sure.
evasion, I'd
You go the
probably do
crit
the more
one. Okay.
crits. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Simple question.
Oh
The
God.
the opera scene from FF6 or the
Okay.
Honeybee Inn scene from 7 Remake?
Um, hmm. I haven't played the six pixel remaster,
Sure.
so but I've seen it, I guess. Um, like on the whole, the Honeybee Inn scene kind of starts to get away from me a little bit, but like
Okay.
when you get like I don't love the Honeybee scene as much as I probably. That's a hard question. But the big reveal and Aerith being so excited for what's gonna happen here. And oh sorry, the input, quick time dance scene. Yeah, Honeybee in for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the correct answer.
uh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
I love her reaction to you
yeah,
being up
yeah,
there. Uh, there was like a comment I saw once when they finish the makeover on you, and I think it's before you as the player sees Cloud, but
yeah,
it cuts to her reaction of you,
yeah.
and she's just like, ah, and I just saw a comment that was like at 2:51 something just awakened in Aerith or
Yeah.
something. It's like, yeah, that's pretty
No,
much how she played it.
yeah, I love that. And just like Cloud, super angstiest person ever, full on
Like
dance
full
moves.
boy band, which we'll get into this later, but it's like when people are like, "Oh, Aerith, like she like picks on Cloud too much, and she makes puts too much pressure on him." To it's like, but he wouldn't have done that if she hasn't been pestering him to like get out of his shell. You know what I mean? Like that is
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
growth that she brought out of him.
yeah.
I just that scene is so important for so many reasons. I love it.
No, I love it. And it's kind of like, yeah, and what I mean is just like, you go to Honeybee Inn and it's not quite yet, and it's just like, look, can I just get to the point
Sure.
where I get into the Honeybee Inn that I kind of want
Yeah.
here? And like, oh, his name escapes me, the main guy.
Andre.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Is
think
that
that's
it?
his name. Or do you mean Don Corneo?
No, no, no. Yeah, not Don Corneo.
Like the guy
The
that
guy who,
you
yeah,
dance with?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
Andre.
Uh,
I think that's his
oh,
name.
Rodeo something. Uh, sorry,
I
I'm
don't
drawing a
remember.
blank here. Anyway, um, yeah, the guy that you dance with. It's like Cloud, super angsty, super doesn't want to do anything, and then like best dancer ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. And you
Oh
just
man.
don't even care how little sense it makes at the end of the day because it's just so. Like, they didn't rehearse this. How does he know the moves? But
No,
it's
no,
important that he does it to show, like, that's what Aerith brings out of him, right?
and Aerith is so happy.
Yeah.
Uh,
She
uh,
loves it. Oh, my God.
a- and it's just like even better when she's in like her huge red dress
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
good. Okay. Uh, okay. A full remake, and take that however you want. A full remake of Final Fantasy VI
Hmm.
or a high quality up-res remaster, kind of in the vein of Crisis Core, of the FF13 trilogy?
Hmm. Uh, remake of 6, I
Okay,
think.
that was pretty
Yeah.
easy. I think that would,
I mean,
assuming
uh,
it was done well, I guess that, which I feel like at this point I would trust them to do it anyway. But yeah,
yeah. 13 is. I feel like I'm still impressed by
I
13
know that's a
in
selfish.
and
That
of
was a
itself.
selfish
Yeah.
one for me. I want. It's been like over 10 years, I think now, since 13 came out. So I'm like, give me that. Just give me that remaster because it is. Excuse me. It is still stuck on PS3, so that's kind of why I want it. Is it's not been ported
Okay.
anywhere. It was
Fair.
ported on PC, but those parts aren't that great. So just like
Um,
give me that remaster. I'll play those again. I'll
yeah.
platinum those
No, and
again.
yeah, oh, yeah, I know you would for sure. Yeah. But no, FF6 remake would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was a pretty easy one.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
I wouldn't shy away from the other one either.
No.
It's not a 0-100 kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Uh, level your party members equally, or
Hmm.
pick your party and power through.
Hmm. I'm a pick your party and power through.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Um.
that's how I've always been,
mm,
like growing up playing them. Only in
yeah,
recent years when, and not for all of them, but like the last time I played seven, I like rotated out a lot and tried to like
yeah.
level everyone up just to the variety of it,
Different
right?
different game. It makes it a different game.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
I'll do that more often now, but I'm generally more just pick your party and just power through the game.
The thing I'm better at now than I used to be as a kid was just like as a kid it was like, oh, okay, most important thing, max out attack power. That's the only
Yes.
thing that ever matters.
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, hey, look, Aerith is not like there's no point in trying to max out her
Yeah.
attack power kind of thing. Stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I did a lot of that with my subsequent playthroughs of eight. Because I
Mm,
would just junction everything to attack, then attack like just hold X and attack
yeah.
everything, and like
And that's still fun.
picking. Yeah, no, and like picking because I'd always be too afraid of like using my magic because it's like it you lose charges of it or whatever, right? But it's like it.
Yeah.
So when I was recent playthroughs, I would like put Renoa in my party and put all of her junction in magic, and she was unstoppable. Like
Yeah.
she
Yep.
was so
Yep.
powerful, and it's like, oh, that's way more fun to play it
Yep.
that way. And I'd have yeah,
Playing to people's kind of not their inherent builds kind of
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
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 So I've definitely gotten better at that as time goes on.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this last one, you have 3 seconds to answer, and
Okay.
if you don't pick
Gut.
one, sorry, what were you
Yeah.
gonna say?
Gut reaction.
Yeah, gut
Yeah.
reaction. Simple question.
Okay.
And if you don't answer in 3 seconds, I'll assume the answer is neither.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tifa or Aerith.
Tifa.
Okay, I was hoping to
Yeah.
make you think. I didn't know
No,
if you'd
I
be
was
ready
like,
to pull the trigger.
no, I know what the question's gonna be. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I
exactly.
led the witness a
Um,
little bit.
yeah. Yeah. Um, and especially because like in the remake, um, you get a lot more of like her story
Sure.
versus Aerith kind of thing. So, but anyway, still,
Okay.
um, it's like impossible question. So I did,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay. That's what I wanted.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Um,
and I'm super excited. Just a little footnote on that. Now that like the technology is there for this like higher quality like facial capture and like actual acting that the actors do,
yeah.
um, to see how she plays, like hearing him talk about the past wrong, like to
Yeah.
like to see how
Yep.
it plays off her being like, what the hell is he talking about? Like he wasn't there, just
Yep.
to get some of that subtlety in the cutscenes and acting. Like I'm so excited for. Um,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Because that will get even more. Um, there, there, that that whole like, hey, your memory is wrong. really starts to come into play.
Yeah.
So, but for me, it was like when you have the choice of like the chapter 14, whatever, like or not have your choice, but
Oh, if
you
you do
build
the
up.
different things. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
get Tifa the first
Uh,
time?
no, I got Aerith the first time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But when the Tifa scene to me, like, oh, that's a gut punch.
Okay.
Because they're just like, this is our home. Like they've taken our home away from us again and
Oh,
again and
true. Yeah,
again.
that's after the plate
Um,
falls. Yeah. Wait,
oh,
is it?
that,
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
uh,
obviously. Yeah, yeah, it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, that kills me. She's just like so,
Oh, and her voice
like
actor is so good.
she has like nothing to cling on to except like Cloud's the last kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um, of her past kind of thing, like because Sephiroth killed her mentor and
yeah.
destroyed their home, and anyway, that just gets me. The
Mm.
story, her story is so much more fleshed out for me. I mean, both are good answers.
Yeah.
It's another 51-49.
Now you made your
Um,
choice.
I know, I'm encroaching a neither answer, so I better
Yeah,
shut up.
yeah. Better watch
But
yourself.
no, yeah, yeah, you will completely remove any answer from the record
I
here.
will dub in my voice of you saying neither if you say one more word.
Saying I hate both of them and their character developments. Um, but yeah, no, it for me it was the fact that like that was the gut punch for me
Yep.
in first in remake. So maybe
Sure.
Rebirth will have a different story, but yeah,
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 yeah. The similarly, it's the Aerith one when she's like, for all like for how closed off Cloud is in the game, for the most part, and she's like, "Don't fall in love with me," and he doesn't
yeah, yeah.
say, what are you
What the hell are
talking?"
you talking
He's
about?
like, "What? I don't get a say in this." Like that,
Yeah.
it just destroys me every time. Like it's just, oh God, I love that
On
game.
on the other foot, when um you are like when Johnny rolls out the red carpet and like Aerith comes down after having like gotten her dress or whatever,
Yep.
and like the fireworks and all this kind of stuff, you're just like, "Ah, God damn, this game's so manipulative."
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah,
You will love
but
this woman. I'll force it down your throat.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, hard question because I know
Okay, all right. I got what I
yeah,
wanted.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool.
Okay, well, I think that'll do it for this episode. The next one, like I said, I think we'll talk about your like trips home and like my playlists I have for you because I
Oh,
got
nice.
some fun stories I want to bring up about that. And maybe we'll talk about we were going to revisit one of our like sort of earlier memories of going to our other cousins, because we played a lot of
Ah,
very
yeah.
memorable NES games that they owned that we played a ton of over there. So I think we
Cool.
could put that into kind of one episode. So that'll probably be the next one that we do.
That'll be cool because like with Chris and Scott, it was kind of a different subset of games altogether.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
That'll
Yeah.
be cool too. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Matt. I'm glad your internet held up for the most part for this.
Uh,
Um,
and I'm glad the dwelling held up fine.
yeah, that too, I guess. That's kind of important.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
No, cool. This has been awesome.
yeah, right on. So yeah, whenever we'll figure out when the next one will be. When are you back home? It's like March something,
Uh,
right?
Early March,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll figure out whether it's before then or after. But yeah,
Cool.
looking forward to it.
Right on. Okay. Thanks
Cool.
everyone for
All right.
watching, and
Cheers, everyone.
we'll see you on the next one.
Okay. Bye bye.